Spokesman on transport describes the JUTC as a basket case of inefficiency.
Staff salaries alone are nearly 3 times the company's income and maintenance budget combined. Fuel and lubricants are 300% of the fare box. The JUTC is now a basket case.
In news from the rest of the world, Cuba says Russian warships will arrive in Havana sometime next week.
U.S. President Joe Biden draws parallels between Russia's invasion of Ukraine and World War II.
In headline sports, Jamaica leads the Dominican Republic 1-0 in World Cup qualifying football at the National Stadium.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, former Prime Minister of Jamaica P.J. Patterson says the country cannot afford a local final court and must instead accede to the jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice CCJ.
The CCJ is our court. We fashioned it ourselves. We have paid our share for it.
You'll hear more from his lecture during a reasoning at the UWMONA Faculty of Law.
From 6 to 8, it's the Medical Association of Jamaica MAJ Symposium 2024. You'll hear more from several experts on cancer screening.
And at 8, it's Jamaican Dads with Dennis Brooks, Garth Williams, Marlon Campbell, and Floyd Green. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile. Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio JM.com, and on the Nationwide app available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Thursday afternoon, it's Thursday, June 6, 2024.
News at 5 is brought to you by the new Pizza Zinger from KFC. Topped with marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and pepperoni. Available for a limited time only. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. There were sharp exchanges today between the daughter of slain businessman Keith Clark, Brittany, and King's Counsel Valerie Nita Robertson. Miss Clark retorted strongly when Mrs. Nita Robertson suggested that she was coached into avoiding questions during cross-examination and that her father had let criminals into their house to hide. Brittany is the second witness in the murder trial against 3 soldiers accused of killing her father during a military operation in May 2010 in search of then-fugitive Christopher Dudus Coke. Robian Williams was in court.
The suggestions came from defense attorney King's Counsel Valerie Nita Robertson on behalf of her client Lance Corporal Greg Tinglin. She told Ms. Clark, quote, "You were coached to come here to obstruct my questions, weren't you?" Brittany answered, quote, "I'm honored that I sound like I was coached. Thank you for the compliment, but only the Lord God is coaching me with the truth." Casey Nita Robertson was questioning whether she heard her mother talking with her father, telling him that there were police and soldiers outside their house. Casey Nita Robertson continued, "You were of the view that there were criminals outside of your house. You thought that criminals fly helicopter and use electric saws?" Before responding, Brittany took several deep breaths, then answered, "I believe that criminals were breaking in my house. I do not know what criminals travel with." She added that at that time she was fearing death and that she didn't know who was outside. Still being pressed about what happened, Brittany gave out, "I wish I knew what occurred. I need some answers myself. I'm pleading for some truth to this day. Please, I'm pleading for the truth." To that testimony, Casey Nita Robertson shot back, "Your father exposed you and your mother to criminals." Evidently perturbed by that suggestion, Brittany said, "That's absolutely far from the truth. The truth needs to be told. Please speak the truth." She maintained that she didn't know who was outside her house at that time. She told the court that she and her family were merely trying to survive. Casey Nita Robertson went in with another suggestion. "Criminals were hiding in your house and in your basement." In a stern response, Brittany said, "You need facts and not suggestions. Bring your facts, please. The fact that you guys had to kick down doors and saw it off, there is evidence that there was no one inside." Casey Nita Robertson told her that her answer was silly which sparked an objection from the prosecutor, Latoya Bernard. Ms. Bernard stated that opinions and side comments on what is being said as testimony should stop. She added that the comment from Casey Nita Robertson was rude. Unbothered by the objection, Casey Nita Robertson put forward that the police and soldiers were at the Clark's residence because Dodos and gunmen were hiding out in the house. She added, "Your father let in the men inside your house that night." Brittany replied, "Madam, speak the truth and stop what you're doing. You need the facts, madam." When asked who she thought was sawing off the door to her house, Brittany said, "I was just preparing to die. I don't know. I can't fathom. I just knew the people, the person, anything was relentless, and I was going to die. I was preparing to die. I was facing the music to dance." The trial will continue on Monday morning at 10. Robeanne Williams for Nationwide News.
Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson says Jamaica cannot afford to establish its own local final appellate court. The suggestion has been advanced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness as a third option in the ongoing debate over whether Jamaica should adopt the appellate jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice, the CCJ, or remain with the UK-based Privy Council. But speaking at the UWI Mona Faculty of Law on Wednesday, Mr. Patterson says his rejection of the idea is based on a study commissioned during the premiership of former Prime Minister Bruce Golding. Mahiri Stewart reports.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has indicated the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, supports the establishment of a local final appellate court. The Prime Minister says the matter should be put to the people in an indicative referendum. But one of Holness's predecessors, P.J. Patterson, says the proposal has already been investigated and found wanting.
During Mr. Golding's tenure, he commissioned quite understandably a study on whether we should have a final court, which is a Jamaican court, as distinct from the CCJ. And the answers are clear. We simply can't afford it. We're paying for one already, and we will be competing with the CCJ from the same pool of talent.
The report, which was produced by a committee chaired by now Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahou Fort, has not been made public. Mr. Patterson says the report should be released. He says any money being considered to establish a final local court should be spent on improving the existing judiciary.
Justice has a cost, and if we can find the money, we should use it to improve and perfect our justice system. That is why we all applaud the new remuneration package for the judiciary. I go further. We must retain the highest levels of competence. We can't afford judges of the Court of Appeal who are just getting in their ring-aki where the law is concerned to be retiring at 70. We should be considering adjusting the age upwards to at least 72, possibly 75.
Former Prime Minister Patterson says the Caribbean Court of Justice is a worthy court. He says the court belongs to all Jamaicans. Mr. Patterson has rejected the idea that the court is a partisan one. He's recommending that the country accede to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ without the need for an indicative referendum.
The CCJ is our court. We fashioned it ourselves. We have paid our share for it. And having regard to the debate in Parliament, we made it an itinerant court so it can sit in Jamaica. It has now passed the 10-year test. One of our most brilliant jurists, Dr. Lloyd Barnett, wrote an assessment of the quality of the judgments issued, which I started to discuss with Mr. Siaga in an attempt to persuade him. But unfortunately, he fell ill before that discussion could be completed.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, the former Prime Minister says Jamaica's continued reliance on the Privy Council as the final appellate court robs ordinary Jamaicans of access to justice. He says Caribbean judges have proven themselves capable of handling difficult legal matters.
poor people are denied the equality of justice because justice is costly. If Vibes Cartel didn't have the money, his case wouldn't have gone to the Privy Council. But his case should not have gone to the Privy Council if we had in place a system that records judgments of our own Court of Appeal. Because if it had, somebody could have looked on those judgments and found that our Court of Appeal here, Zaka and Rowe, with Rocky White dissenting, had decided that once there is any sign of contamination, you must dismiss the entire jury.
Mr. Patterson conceded that public opinion may have shifted towards the Privy Council following the ruling in the Vibes Cartel appeal, but he says the CCJ is competent enough to deliver similar outcomes for Jamaicans.
I am not oblivious to the fact that right now there's a tide because of the judgment or the way the Adijah Palmer appeal was handled. But please note that the same way the Privy Council streams its hearings live, so does the Caribbean Court of Justice. So 62 years after our independence, it is more than overdue for Jamaica to depend no longer on an order in council to abolish the monarchy and to vest the judicial arm with the full authority to dispense justice for all as we seek to develop a Caribbean jurisprudence.
P.J. Patterson, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, he was speaking at the UWI Mona Faculty of Law on Wednesday.
The youth arm of the Jamaica Labour Party, Young Jamaica, continues to press for opposition leader Mark Golding to resign. The latest call comes amid views expressed by former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson that while it's currently legal for Commonwealth citizens to sit in the Houses of Parliament, the practice should end when Jamaica cuts ties with the British monarchy.
The issue of citizenship has always been a burning question. Once the monarch goes, so must disappear any concept of a shared common allegiance. In my view, and this is in the report which I support, no valid reason exists for maintaining the provisions pertaining to a Commonwealth citizen other than a citizen of Jamaica who is resident for at least 12 months to be eligible for parliamentary office. The qualifications must be based, in my view, on Jamaican citizenship.
Mr. Patterson was speaking Wednesday during a reasoning on the recommendations of the Constitutional Reform Committee held at the Faculty of Law on the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies. He says there are certain sensitive positions in government that should only be held by persons with singular Jamaican citizenship. Mark Golding is a dual British and Jamaican citizen. Young Jamaica says Mr. Patterson's views sharply contrast with those expressed by Mr. Golding. Further, the group says Mr. Patterson's views represents a growing divide in the PNP over Mr. Golding's dual citizenship. Young Jamaica says the opposition leader's advocacy for dual citizens to sit in Parliament appears to be an attempt to craft the rules for his own selfish benefit. It says Jamaica deserves leaders who are wholly committed to the nation's advancement and free from divided loyalties. You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5.
Funding and technical assistance to MSMEs, projects and other businesses through our strong partnerships. Because helping to build better businesses helps to build a better Jamaican economy for everyone. Visit us at dbankjm.com for more info. DBJ, the business builder.
Straight from the rock so it flows. Enjoy life letting go. Feel the breeze, mountain reach, water clean. Nature green, everything's good with Catherine's feet. Rain or sun is shining, Mother Nature's blessings. Nature green, everything's good with Catherine's feet.
Continuing the news, Most territories in the Caribbean had no student enrolling in the 4 STEM subjects that the Caribbean Examination Council CXC was considering suspending. CXC has since reversed its decision following intervention from ministers of education across the region. Shalois Michael reports.
The enrollment requirement for Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination CAPE subjects is 2,500 entries. The Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC requirement is 3,300. CEO of CXC, Dr. Wayne Wesley, says that in some territories there was no enrollment, while in others the numbers were significantly below the required threshold in the 4 STEM subjects. He says this dismal enrollment over the last 3 to 4 years was what prompted the regional exam body to consider suspending the subjects. Dr. Wesley says for CSEC Industrial Technology, at least 6 territories had no enrollment.
With, for example, CSEC Industrial Technology, within the past 3 years, 6 territories would have no registration, whereas 3 territories would have between 1 to 5 students annually, and a further 3 territories registering up to 50 students annually.
According to Dr. Wesley, in CSEC Agricultural Science Double Award, no student registered for the subject in 8 territories.
CSEC Agricultural Science Double Major, 8 territories registered no candidate for the award for the past 3 years. The remaining 4 territories have registered approximately between 1 and 50 students annually, with the majority of them being below 10.
In the available data for Jamaica on CSEC Agricultural Science, there were 205 from 10 schools, resulting in a shortfall of over 3,000 entries. The CXC CEO also revealed that registration for CAPE Green Engineering and Electrical and Electronic Engineering Technology was similarly dismal.
For CAPE Green Engineering Units 1 and 2, several territories average between 0 in 7 territories to a mean of about 40 students in 1 larger territory. And then for CAPE Electrical and Electronic Engineering Technology Units 1 and 2, an average of 0 in 6 territories to 137 in 1 large territory. So all of this over the past 3 to 4 years would have contributed to the consideration being given to suspending these until proper systems would have been put in place to accommodate their continued delivery.
The education ministers in the region have committed to ramping up the marketing of the subjects, upskilling teachers in the 4 subject areas, and providing more resources for STEM education. This is because maintaining the subjects aligns with each nation's strategic goals. Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Cuba's foreign ministry has disclosed that Russian warships will arrive in Havana sometime next week. However, it says the 4 Navy ships will not be carrying nuclear weapons and did not present a threat to the region. In a statement, the foreign ministry says the arrival of the ships corresponds to the historical friendly relationships between Cuba and the Russian Federation. The announcement of Cuba comes a day after the U.S. disclosed that Russia had plans to send combat vessels into the Caribbean. They would deploy to Cuba and Venezuela to conduct naval exercises. The Russian ships are expected to arrive in the Havana harbor between June 12 and 17. Tensions between the U.S. and Russia have increased since the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. But the United States says it does not see the expected arrival of the ships as threatening.
Further afield, U.S. President Joe Biden has drawn parallels between Russia's invasion of Ukraine and World War II in a speech commemorating the 80th anniversary of D-Day landings in Normandy, France. Speaking just steps away from where almost 9,400 members of the U.S. military who participated in the landings are buried, Mr. Biden warned democracies across the globe were once again under threat, adding autocrats were closely watching the Western response to Ukraine. The president, born in 1942, will likely be the last U.S. leader to be alive at the time of the operation to liberate Nazi-occupied France. A host of world leaders were present at ceremonies on Thursday, including French President Emmanuel Macron, King Charles, and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who was not invited to Thursday's commemoration ceremony, launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Throughout the speech, Mr. Biden frequently drew connections between the fight against fascism in World War II and the ongoing war in Ukraine.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
To recap, our top stories making nationwide news at this hour. There were sharp exchanges in court today between daughter of murdered businessman Keith Clark and Valerie Nita Robertson after the attorney insisted there were criminals in the house the fateful night Clark was killed.
Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson says Jamaica cannot afford to establish its own local final appellate court.
The answers are clear. We simply can't afford it. We're paying for one already, and we will be competing with the CCJ from the same pool of talent.
And Mr. Patterson says the CCJ is competent enough to deliver similar outcomes as the Privy Council ruling in the Vibes Cartel appeal.
CXC says most territories in the Caribbean had no student enrolling in the 4 STEM subjects considered for suspension.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robian Williams.
You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next tomorrow morning at 6.
News at 5 was brought to you by the new Pizza Zinger from KFC. Topped with marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and pepperoni. Available for a limited time only. KFC. It's finger licking good.
Variety is the spice of life. That's not just true for entertainment, it's true for investing too. While stocks, bonds, and cash are effective, there are other credible investment options out there. These are alternative investments, ranging from digital options like cryptocurrencies to old school investments like gold, real estate, and private equity. You can invest on your own or via a fund with a curated portfolio of investment options.
Visit barita.com/opportunities for more growth coach insights.
Drive Hyundai vehicles beyond your dreams with an exclusive 5.99% interest rate. Yes, shop Hyundai vehicles and get a super low 5.99% interest rate on your car loan. Plus 2 years free service, 1 year insurance, and 5 years warranty. Offer valid on all 2024 Hyundai vehicles. Drive your Hyundai with the lowest interest, 5.99%. Conditions apply.
Good afternoon with your sports report. I am Alric Raby. We kick things off with some football as Jamaica are leading the Dominican Republic 1-0 close to the end of their CONCACAF World Cup qualifier at the National Stadium. Shamar Nicholson gave Jamaica the lead after 16 minutes, converting from inside the box after the Dominican Republic was caught out on a counter led by Ronaldo Cephas. The Reggae Boys missed an opportunity to increase their lead in the 80th minute. But the Fulham star Bobby Reid failed to convert from the spot after Cephas was brought down. 6 English Premier League clubs must sell players before June ends to comply with the division's financial rules. June 30 is the final day of the financial year for the Premier League, with clubs having to submit their accounts. If a club has lost more than £105 million over 3 years, or less if they spent some time outside the top flight, they are in breach of the profit and sustainability rules. Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Everton, Tottenham Forest, and Leicester will all be under pressure to sell a player or two. The broadcaster claimed that June 30 has in effect become a mini transfer deadline day, which caused chaos for Euro 2024. Now to cricket, as co-host, United States produced the first real shock of the ICC T20 World Cup. They beat one of the tournament favourites, Pakistan, in a super over to take over the leadership of Group A. Pakistan batted first and were restricted to 159 for 7 in their 20 overs. This on the back of a top score of 44 from captain Babar Azam, Shadab Khan 40 and Shaheen Shah Afridi 23 not out. The US then produced a measured batting performance to tie the score with 159 for 3 in their 20 overs. Captain Monak Patel crafted a superb half-century, and he was supported by Andreas Koos 35 and Aaron Jones 36 not out. The USA won the super over 18-13. Veteran cricket commentator Joseph Reds Pereira says the West Indies got it right in the players' name for the tour of England next month. Both teams will meet in a 3-test Richards Botham series from July 4 to 30. Pereira says lead selector Desmond Haynes and coach Andre Coley did a great job in selecting the squad.
Well, there's no way anyone can really fault the selectors. They have picked an excellent team. I don't believe there's any concern about the leaving out of Chandrapal. He had a dismal tour of Australia, but worse yet, he performed very badly at the regional level and didn't give the selectors any real performances to even consider him. Congratulations to young Lowy of St. Kitts. He certainly earned his cap on the performance with the runs. It's got depth in the batting, it's got good pace, it's got decent spin, and I think the West Indies can compete against England in conditions that probably not really favouring the touring side.
Joseph Reds Pereira. There are no plans in place to move any T20 World Cup fixtures out of New York despite growing fears over substandard pitches. Serious concerns are mounting over the unpredictable nature of the drop in surfaces at the Nassau County International Cricket Stadium after the first 2 fixtures played at the venue. On Monday, Sri Lanka were bowled out by South Africa for 77, their lowest score in T20s, while India dismissed Ireland for 96 on Wednesday. India have privately voiced their unhappiness with the unpredictability bounds of two-paced nature of the strips amid worries over the safety of their batters. India play Pakistan on Sunday at the venue in one of the most eagerly anticipated fixtures of the tournament, with a capacity crowd of 32,000 expected. The International Cricket Council is believed to be analysing data from previously abandoned games to establish how to react should it need to act. And finally, in motorsports, Lewis Hamilton has questioned whether Formula One's new rules are the right direction, but said that the new engine are a bold step. Governing body for FIA has revealed plans for cars to be smaller, nimbler and more environmentally friendly from 2026. Cars will be 30 kilograms lighter, 10 centimeters narrower, and have engines with a near 50-50 split between electricity and internal combustion power, and use fully sustainable fuels. Hamilton, who was previously called for the cars to be made lighter, said it's only 30 grams, so it's going in the right direction, but they are still heavy. And finally, it's now time for the Nationwide Olympic Fact, sponsored by Fontana Pharmacy.
This is Nationwide's Olympic Facts, brought to you by Fontana Pharmacy. It's all good inside.
Did you know that only one of the 88 medals won by Jamaican athletes in Olympic history has come outside track and field? Yes, that's a fact. At 23 years old, David Weller won bronze in the men's 1 kilometer cycling time trial at the 1980 Games in Moscow.
That was Nationwide's Olympic Facts. Brought to you by Fontana Pharmacy. It's all good inside.
There you have it, Nationwide's Olympic Fact, sponsored by Fontana Pharmacy. I'm Alric Swiby, and that's your sports.
Hyundai, the home of modern premium affordable vehicles. Call us at 876-630-1511. The time by Hyundai is
5:32.
You didn't know that the government decreased JUTC bus fares? Yes, it's now 70 for adults, 25 for children, and 30 for pensioners. And in April, fares will go down even further to 50 for adults, 20 for children, and 25 for pensioners.
The temperature by the office of the Prime Minister is
26 degrees Celsius in City Kingston and 29 in Montego Bay.
More savings, more choices. Get active with Active Home Center. The one-stop shop for everything for your home. We have more savings, more choices, unbelievable prices. Wide selection with the latest styles. The kitchen, bathroom, right down to the tile. Buy the hottest items on spot, don't miss out. Best options under one roof, no doubt. More savings, more choices.
Visit us in store or online at www.activehomecenter.com.
We have more savings, more choices.
To seize opportunities on your business horizon, you need tailored financing solutions from a partner that takes the time to understand your business. Sagicor Investments. We offer mid-sized to large corporations the debt and equity financing solutions they need to drive growth. Backed by the strength of Sagicor Group, one of the largest financial conglomerates in the region, you can be confident that we will deliver. Make your business move with Sagicor Investments. Contact our capital markets unit at 888 Sagicor.
Outperform, outlast. With top performance. Jackhammer. Reliable, full stop, not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electricians. Fancy select tools, free parts and free repairs. Free parts, free repairs. In 2 to 3 years. Hilton, available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-61124. Delta Supply, we service what we sell.
Some dreamers picture a place they call home, a house with no mortgage, a home that they own. Some dream of owning their very own store, meet a cafe or florist, or growing one into more. Where one dreams of making luxury shopping the norm, others dream of sports cars, the kind that perform. But one thing in common these dreamers all need is to build their wealth so they can achieve.
Never settle for less than your dreams with Sagicor Investments. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with a wealth advisor.
Does your bra ride up your back? Do your shoulders hurt from carrying the weight of your breasts? These are signs of an ill-fitting bra. When was the last time you were fitted by a bra fit specialist? The bra experts at LaBelle Femme will take care of you. Drop into the store at 53 Lady Musgrave Road, Tuesdays to Saturdays from 10 to 5, and you will see the difference. Or call 876-622-6091.
Jamaica, the MAJ Symposium 2024 returns from June 6 to 9. Join virtually for the first 3 days on Zoom, then convene at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel on June 9. This year's theme, Resilience in Healthcare, a global imperative, promises to explore strategies in building an efficient and resilient healthcare system. Tune in to Nationwide at 5 on June 6 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for their public forum on cancer screening. The forum features expert insights, live streaming, and Twitter sessions, all in the name of healthcare. Visit majdoctors.com for registration details and be part of the movement towards a healthier, more resilient future. That's a live broadcast of the MAJ Symposium's public forum on cancer screening, June 6 during Nationwide at 5 from 6 to 8 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Medical Association of Jamaica.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
We've been a part of everyday Jamaican life for over 25 years. From paydays to birthdays, unexpected emergencies to anniversary celebrations. The supermarket checkout line, or paying a bill or taxes on time. Our fast, secure debit network provides reliable service so you can always depend on Multilink. Jamaican and proud, fast, secure, everywhere.
Good afternoon, listeners, viewers. It's 5:37, the 6th of the 6th, 2024, and it's time for the cover story. I'm Siobhan Campbell. Well, we have for you, as part of the cover story coming up, the excerpts of PJ Patterson at the Mona Law reasoning session. But before we get to that, today is quite a special day. Today is June 6th, that is the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings at Normandy, France. That is often considered the pivotal moment where the turning point of World War II took place against the fascist dictators of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini in Europe. And as marking that day, US President Joe Biden has drawn parallels between Russia's invasion of Ukraine and World War II. He made the comparison in a speech commemorating the 80th anniversary, speaking just steps away from where 9,388 members of the US military who participated in the landings are buried. Mr. Biden warned democracies across the globe were once again under threat. He said autocrats were closely watching the Western response to Ukraine. Ricardo Brooks reports.
It's been 80 years since the Allied forces invaded Nazi-occupied France. Using the largest ever armada of ships, troops, planes, and vehicles, the unprecedented scale and audacity of their efforts punched a hole in Adolf Hitler's defenses in Western Europe on June 6, 1944. This changed the course of World War II. But more than 2 million Allied soldiers, sailors, pilots, medics, and other people from a dozen countries were involved in the overall Operation Overlord, the battle to wrest Western France from Nazi control, and started on D-Day. 6,000 black Caribbean men volunteered for the Allied forces. 5,500 of them served on the ground staff and some 450 as aircrew. Another 80 women joined the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. The largest Caribbean contingent came from Jamaica. By February 1945, there were over 3,700 Jamaicans in Air Force Blue. D-Day, June 6, 1944, began at around 6:30 a.m. The sea landings started just after dawn, targeting 5 code-named beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. Over 150 mainly British, Canadian, and French troops landed on the 5 beaches. The operation also included actions inland, including overnight parachute landings on strategic German sites and U.S. Army Rangers scaling cliffs to take out German gun positions. Around 11,000 Allied aircraft, 7,000 ships and boats, and thousands of other vehicles were involved. A total of 4,414 Allied troops were killed on D-Day itself, including 2,501 Americans. More than 5,000 were wounded. In the ensuing Battle of Normandy, 73,000 Allied forces were killed and 153,000 wounded. The battle, and especially Allied bombings of French villages and cities, killed around 20,000 French civilians. The exact number of German casualties is unknown, but historians estimate that between 4,000 and 9,000 were killed, wounded, or went missing during the D-Day invasion alone. About 22,000 German soldiers are among the many buried around Normandy. As the world remembers the 80th anniversary of D-Day, the number of survivors attending major anniversary commemorations in France continues to dwindle. The youngest survivors are now in their late 90s. It's unclear how many D-Day veterans are still alive. But even as veterans and world dignitaries gather in Normandy to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the landings, the war in Ukraine overshadowed the ceremonies. It's a grim modern-day example of lives and cities that are again suffering through war in Europe. Ukraine's president was greeted with a standing ovation and cheers. Russia, a crucial World War II ally, whose full-scale invasion of its smaller neighbor in 2022 set Europe on a new path of war, was not invited. Russian President Vladimir Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. A host of world leaders were present at ceremonies on Thursday, including French President Emmanuel Macron, King Charles, and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Throughout his speech, President Biden frequently drew connections between the fight against fascism in World War II and the ongoing war in Ukraine. He vowed the United States would not walk away from the conflict. Ricardo Brooks for Nationwide at 5.
Thank you, Ricardo, and for that recap. And I think a lot of Jamaicans and a lot of people around the world do not appreciate how important the Caribbean was to what was considered by Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the time the arsenal of democracy against the fascist dictators of Italy, Nazi Germany, and Japan. I think hundreds of millions of tons of supplies such as oil, bauxite, foodstuffs were taken from the Caribbean to fuel the war effort against those powers, and a very unknown Battle of the Caribbean took place where German U-boats and Italian U-boats were trying to thwart attempts to get those supplies to the Allied invasion forces in Europe, and those also fighting in the Pacific. So it is important that we here in Jamaica commemorate that event, D-Day, as do other powers across the world, including the more than 5,000 Jamaicans who took part in World War II in various theaters such as Palestine, Italy, France, and I believe there were still some Jamaican soldiers who took part in the Battle of Berlin. Well, we'll take a break and then we'll come back now with Percival James Patterson speaking at the Mona Reasoning session.
Clearing personal, non-commercial shipments at the port? Avoid the wait. Request a contactless clearance through your agent today. It's more efficient. It's secure. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
5:44.
Fast, friendly service? Check. Delicious chicken? Check. Get Quick Chick. Drive-through available at 29 Grand Spen Road. Great taste without the wait. The temperature by Quick Chick is
28 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and 25 out west in Montego Bay.
Who shops at Creative Building Finishes? You, the homeowner who creates luxurious spaces with our floor and wall tiles. The contractor and builder who are convinced that our ceramic tiles are right for the job. The architect and designer who make dreams come true with our wood look and porcelain tiles. Superior customer service, knowledgeable staff, inviting showroom, and you get where this is going, right? Shop 5 Red Hills Road or call 876-929-5553. Get tiles, get Creative Building Finishes.
Drive Hyundai vehicles beyond your dreams with an exclusive 5.99% interest rate. Yes, shop Hyundai vehicles and get a super low 5.99% interest rate on your car loan. Plus 2 years free service, 1 year insurance, and 5 years warranty. Offer valid on all 2024 Hyundai vehicles. Drive your Hyundai with the lowest interest, 5.99%. Conditions apply.
Plan your tomorrow today. Introducing JMMB's Hello Future Retirement Planning website. Figure out how much you'll need to be set for life with our calculated tools and tips at your fingertips. Visit hellofuture.jmmb.com and start your journey to your dream retirement today. Conditions apply.
The Transport Authority is asking all ride-sharing or ride-hailing companies to contact the office urgently by calling 876-277-9671. A message from the Transport Authority.
Welcome back, listeners, to the cover story, and we shift now over to PJ Patterson at the Mona Law reasoning session. The former Prime Minister told the session that Jamaica cannot afford to establish its own local final appellate court. The suggestion has been advanced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness as a third option in the ongoing debate over whether Jamaica should adopt the appellate jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, or remain with the UK-based Privy Council. He was speaking, as I said, at the UE Mona Faculty of Law on Wednesday.
Apart from my pleasure, which is customary, in seeing Mr. Bruce Golding here, he can attest to what I am about to say. The CCJ is our court. We fashioned it ourselves. We have paid our share for it. And having regard to the debate in Parliament, we made it an itinerant court so it can sit in Jamaica. It has now passed the 10-year test. One of our most brilliant jurists, Dr. Lloyd Barnett, wrote an assessment of the quality of the judgments issued, which I started to discuss with Mr. Siaga in an attempt to persuade him, but unfortunately he fell ill before that discussion could be completed. During Mr. Golding's tenure, he commissioned quite understandably a study on whether we should have a final court, which is a Jamaican court, as distinct from the CCJ. And the answers are clear. We simply can't afford it. We're paying for one already. And we will be competing with the CCJ from the same pool of talent. Justice has a cost. And if we can find the money, we should use it to improve and perfect our justice system. That is why we all applaud the new remuneration package for the judiciary. I go further. We must retain the highest levels of competence. We can't afford judges of the Court of Appeal who are just getting in their ring aki, where the law is concerned, to be retiring at 70. We should be considering adjusting the age upwards to at least 72, possibly 75. Some cases have come to attention recently. There is a case of Lessine Edwards, where he was acquitted by the Privy Council. But you know why he was acquitted? Privy Council made resources available for them to do a scientific study, which was not available in the court here. And one thing we have to understand, poor people are denied the equality of justice because justice is costly.
Former Prime Minister Percival James Patterson, he says it's time for Jamaica to accede to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ.
If Vibes Cartel didn't have the money, his case wouldn't have gone to the Privy Council. But his case should not have gone to the Privy Council if we had in place a system that records judgments of our own Court of Appeal. Because if it had, somebody could have looked on those judgments and found that our Court of Appeal here, Zaka and Rowe, with Rocky White dissenting, had decided that once there is any sign of contamination, you must dismiss the entire jury. I am not oblivious to the fact that right now there's a tide because of the judgment or the way the Adijah Palmer appeal was handled. But please note that the same way the Privy Council streams its hearings live, so does the Caribbean Court of Justice. So, 62 years after our independence, it is more than overdue for Jamaica to depend no longer on an order in council to abolish the monarchy and to vest the judicial arm with the full authority to dispense justice for all as we seek to develop a Caribbean jurisprudence. I repeat, our founding fathers envisaged the establishment of a Caribbean court at the apex. It should remain as a settled national position and not be subverted because of political expediency to be a partisan divide.
Before we continue, that's an interesting suggestion by Mr. Percival James Patterson. When he calls for it to be a settled national position, I would hope, if not that is his intention, that he would be suggesting then that we put it to the people to decide once and for all that they would like to see whether Jamaica adopts the CCJ or stays with the Privy Council. But I don't see how any other way we could arrive at what he calls a settled national position without the input of the Jamaican people in their totality. Well, the former Prime Minister also criticized the Privy Council's decision, which struck down Jamaica's effort to join the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, in 2005. In 2003, Patterson's administration passed a series of bills aimed at abolishing appeals to the Privy Council and placing the CCJ at the apex of the Jamaican judiciary. The move was challenged and ultimately struck down at the Privy Council in 2005. Mr. Patterson says the Privy Council's reasoning was undermined by the actions of then British Prime Minister Tony Blair.
Not one single ground has been advanced why this vestigial colonial institution should remain. What changed? The government and the then leader of the opposition thought he was going to lure me with the fantasy of an indicative referendum. I was never going to succumb to that temptation. The differences between the two parties were reflected in our election manifestos of 2002. Now, the matter went to the Privy Council eventually, and let me say this. I accept the decision of the Privy Council because it is final, not because it is right. Why do I say this? What we lawyers call the ratio decidendi, meaning the reasons for the decision, are fundamentally flawed and indeed reflect a level of contempt which I find repugnant. Because on an examination, the Privy Council was satisfied of the quality of the composition of the court, its protection by a treaty, but it invoked what I call the doctrine of anticipated malevolence. What do I mean? What do they mean by that? Lest one prime minister would go rogue. And they said, one prime minister can interfere with the Caribbean court, but everybody knows nobody can interfere with us. Within 1 year of their saying so, Tony Blair changed the entire structure of the English judicial system and abolished the House of Lords as the final appellate court and instead constituted the English Supreme Court. I have to say that because I'm often misquoted by saying the law is not a shackle. I never said so. And I am sure the jurisprudence that is taught here allows people to understand that there are different approaches to the law In my view, and I'm persistent in that, it has to be a tool of social engineering.
There you have it, Percival James Patterson. Mr. Patterson says it is critical that consensus be achieved when addressing issues of national importance.
During the 1978 conversations, the PNP was insistent on an executive president chosen by the electorate. The JLP favored a ceremonial head of state appointed by parliamentary procedures. The Carr Commission, by a majority decision after extensive debate, recommended, and I quote, that the formal head of state should not be an active politician and head of government. End of quote. It proposed that the head of state should be appointed on the nomination of the Prime Minister in consultation with the leader of the opposition, subject to confirmation by a 2/3 majority of the members of both houses of Parliament sitting in joint session. This, it felt, would invest the selection with an aura of democratic approval, and the Republican form would replace the monarchical in a manner indicative of our national identity and consciousness of our self-esteem as a nation. I sought during my tenure to move forward to completing the structures of our independence. It was my view that the process towards our self-definition as a people had to be accelerated. The institution of our own indigenous president as head of state in the Republic of Jamaica must now be placed on the front burner of the public agenda.
That is former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson. He was speaking during a reasoning session at the UWI Mona Faculty of Law on Wednesday. Well, before we go for 6 o'clock, I want to at least point out that the former Prime Minister Bruce Golding also spoke, and he joined Mr. Patterson in objecting to the proposed method for appointing a future president. That's a short clip that we'll play now for you.
I know if I have the majority in both houses, and I know that if we reach a deadlock,
yes,
my majority will prevail.
Yes.
There is no inducement for me to try and arrive at consensus.
Absolutely.
I mean, I will string it out, and when we can't agree, then I have my way.
So there you have it, listeners. That's the opinion of Bruce Golding. He believes that there should be an attempt by both sides to find a consensus on appointing the future president rather than attempting to use the method being proposed by the CRC currently. Well, that's where we're going to have to leave it for the cover story. After this, we are going to join my co-host, Ricardo Brooks, for the Medical Association of Jamaica Symposium 2024. A theme for that will be Resilience in Healthcare, a Global Imperative.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Say hello to peace of mind and goodbye to worry with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider Plan, and secure your medical expenses in the event of critical illness today. Call 888-367-5433 for details.
The time by Guardian Life is
6 o'clock.
Cool loans, selling your 500 grand. We buy appliances and electrons. All flexible, payment plan. Yeah, man, a hot cash. Hot. I hope to 500 grand. Yeah, man, a hot cash. $500,000 that make you rich fast. 100 grand for buy steel and black. 200 for furniture, laptop. 200 for keep birthday bash. Yeah, money loan hot. Get a cool loan to purchase all your electronics, furnitures, and appliances at coolmarket.com.
My Mega
With so much
much to do in one location, make Megamart your one-stop shop. Pick up your groceries and houseware needs, grab a bite and pay some bills. Fill your prescriptions and see the beauty products in our pharmacy. All in one amazing location. My Megamart, the best value by far.
Optimist International Jamaica Kingston presents Classics in June 2024, Sunday, June 16 at the Hewitt Chapel, starting at 5 p.m. Artists include Stephen Woodham, Yuko Aoki, and Rafael Salazar. Cost $3,500. Tickets available at Music Mart and all Monarch Pharmacy locations. Sponsors include Chase Fund, Kingston Freeport Terminal, Nationwide News Network, VM Group, and Vinci Construction.
To seize opportunities on your business horizon, you need tailored financing solutions from a partner that takes the time to understand your business. Sagicor Investments. We offer mid-sized to large corporations the debt and equity financing solutions they need to drive growth. Backed by the strength of Sagicor Group, one of the largest financial conglomerates in the region, you can be confident that we will deliver. Make your business move with Sagicor Investments. Contact our capital markets unit at 888-SAGICOR.
Jamaica, the MAJ Symposium 2024 returns from June 6 to 9. Join virtually for the first 3 days on Zoom, then convene at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel on June 9. This year's theme, Resilience in Healthcare, a global imperative, promises to explore strategies in building an efficient and resilient healthcare system. Tune in to Nationwide at 5 on June 6 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for their public forum on cancer screening. The forum features expert insights, live streaming, and Twitter sessions, all in the name of healthcare. Visit majdoctors.com for registration details and be part of the movement towards a healthier, more resilient future. That's a live broadcast of the MAJ Symposium's public forum on cancer screening, June 6, during Nationwide at 5 from 6 to 8 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Medical Association of Jamaica.
Good evening. Welcome to this 2024 Symposium of the Medical Association of Jamaica, MAJ. I'm Ricardo Brooks. This symposium is being held under the theme Resilience in Healthcare, a Global Imperative. Now, listeners, the recent COVID-19 pandemic revealed the fragility of healthcare systems throughout the world and highlighted the need for a more integrated approach to health system strengthening. In Jamaica, our healthcare system experienced similar challenges to the rest of the world. It took a Herculean effort to adjust to the realities of the pandemic. Developing a resilient health system will ensure that countries can effectively prevent, prepare for, detect, adapt to, respond to, and recover from public health threats while ensuring the maintenance of quality, essential, and routine health services in all contexts. Public health emergencies like those seen with COVID-19 uncovered and exacerbated pre-existing health and socioeconomic inequalities within and across societies. Vulnerable groups such as the elderly and children are often disproportionately affected by emergencies. When these emergencies are added to the already fragile health systems, the impacts are compounded. Over the years, we have seen an increase in viral illness and an increase in the number of cases of vaccine-preventable diseases. Vaccine hesitancy has been highlighted by the World Health Organization, the WHO, as one of the top 10 global threats to health. In Jamaica, we had first-hand experience of this during COVID-19, and as such, addressing vaccine hesitancy is of paramount importance in building resilience in our healthcare system. It is against this backdrop that the Medical Association of Jamaica, the MAJ, in association with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, is hosting its Symposium 2024 from June 6 to 9. The theme, again, is Resilience in Healthcare, a Global Imperative. For the broadcast this evening, we'll be looking at cancer screening with a panel of guests. I have with me the President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Leslie Mead. I have also the Director of Non-Communicable Diseases and Injuries Prevention at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Tamu Davidson. Online consultant physician and gastroenterologist at Phoenix Gastroenterology and Health Services, and Vice President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Mike Mills. Gynecologic oncologist at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, Dr. Anna K. Taylor, Christmas, and consultant urologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, Dr. Belinda Morrison, as well as consultant radiologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, Dr. Daria Cornwall. And let me tell you, doctors, if I at any point stumble and trip on these words, I'm going to rely on you for help. We'll start with an overview of the symposium from Dr. Mead, the President. Dr. Mead.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. As you said, we in Jamaica, like the rest of the world, it took some time for us to adjust to the acute shock of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we had to move fast to try and meet the needs of our people. Now, this symposium is trying not only to look at acute shocks and how we respond, but we need to also look at chronic situations that are also we need to address so that we can build resilience. And one of those things is the double burden that we are experiencing now. We are seeing where we have non-communicable diseases, which the 4 cancers we'll be speaking about is real prevalent in our country. About almost 80% of persons who die in Jamaica die from a non-communicable disease. But in addition to that, we are seeing where we have infectious diseases. We have those that have been around that are re-emerging, and we have those that are now coming on stream, what we say emerging diseases. And so one of the things that we'll be looking at during this symposium is personally the NCDs as well as the diseases that we need to look out for going forward. In addition to that, we need to also look at how we can set up our healthcare system to be able to respond as well to the growing challenges. One of the things that we need to look at is how are we going to bring more technology into medical practice in Jamaica? So are we going to have electronic medical records, for example? Are we going to use telemedicine to help to increase the access of people, particularly those in deep rural Jamaica, to healthcare services? And how are we going to be doing more laparoscopic, minimal invasive surgery to ensure that the need for patient to be in hospital for 3, 4, 5 days post-surgery can be decreased? And also, this will help to decrease our need for human resource, because if the patient is not in hospital, then you don't need as many nurses to manage them, and you also may not need all the new hospitals that we are building because patients will be in and out much quicker. So these are some of the things that we wish to address, look at, hear what our experts and other doctors have to say about these things, and see how we can put forward suggestions for improvement.
Mm-hmm. And if I could ask you, Dr. Mead, in terms of what you've seen so far in Jamaica's healthcare system, how advanced would you say we are in terms of building out the sort of resilience that you just spoke to?
During my consultations, because I have had meetings with persons from the ministry on this, we are seeing where things are on the right track. I wish that we are further along, but we are on the right track. You're seeing where, for example, new hospitals are being built, health centers are being improved. We see where new equipment are being sourced, The National Health Fund as well has gone a long way in assisting in that regard. And so I'm pleased with what I see, but there's much more that needs to be done.
Dr. Davidson, much more that needs to be done. You are the Director of Non-Communicable Diseases and Injuries Prevention at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. So from where you sit, what's the assessment?
Yes, so where we're at now, why we actually chose this topic today is that we are facing a global health emergency, and that's of non-communicable diseases. There's no country that's not impacted. And in fact, this is a problem that we've been facing over a number of years. So yes, we have aging populations, but we know that there's a high prevalence of a lot of the environmental risk factors that are driving these NCDs to explain that. And so when we look at the Caribbean situation, we have the highest premature mortality. So people are dying young from these conditions. And we decided to look at cancer because when we looked at cancer, that was the highest premature mortality. And what does that mean? So if you're 30 years old, your risk of dying, for example, in Jamaica is about 8.6% from cancer.
From cancer.
And in fact, Jamaica, when you look at the region of the Americas, the latest report that's out from PAHO, Jamaica is in the top 3.
What accounts for that?
So one of the things that we're looking at is a lot of the environmental factors globally. We find that many of these conditions, and we're looking at premature mortality. There's delay in persons making a decision to screen or even knowing that they can get screened, and a delay in actually getting or accessing care for screening. So if you look at the common cancers, which we're going to talk about today, which is cervical cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, and breast cancer, these are just some of the factors. Then the risk factors that we're looking at, which is driving some of these statistics, include the increase in tobacco use, alcohol use, from a global level, and obesity. So obesity is also a critical risk factor within the context of the Caribbean, along with, of course, the other factors which are not risk behavior related, such as genetics, such as race as well, and there are the environmental factors that we're trying to examine and look at. But what is most important, and why we've really brought this panel of experts here, because we know what works, and we know that through screening and early detection, at least these common cancers, we can improve survival, and it doesn't have to be a death sentence. In fact, we're now talking about eliminating cervical cancer. So I'm looking forward to this panel here of experts that are going to be sharing with us today, and we brought them in from the Ministry of Health to be part of this process so that we can really have this discussion. So at the end of today, we really want persons to walk away and recognize that cancer doesn't have to be a death sentence, and in fact, knowing your health status, getting your checks in a timely manner can really improve your survival rate.
Let me hear a little bit more on the link between NCDs and health resilience in healthcare. What's the link that the ministry sees between the two?
Well, the top 5 causes of death, at least for the past 50, 40 years and the past decade, are around NCDs. And so one of the things that the Ministry of Health has been doing is really improving the infrastructure, improving our approach. So we have the primary healthcare reform, which is the bedrock, where we can do the health promotion in that setting and also get people into screening and care early. And so the approach we take is what we call a life course. So, we usually say from the womb to the tomb.
Right.
So we're taking a patient-centric approach and a holistic approach to health. So when you're coming and interface with a health setting, they're looking at, your age, your sex, and tailoring services towards this central patient or client-centered, if you want to use the language of today.
Right.
And so in that context, we are also building out our secondary care model as well. So you hear more about that at the symposium. And also, we're transforming the health sector for this new paradigm shift and this focus on NCDs, and also addressing our emerging and re-emerging infectious disease. We can't divorce those two. As we saw in the COVID pandemic, you saw how it impacted, the health sector in general. And it was also important that you also had a good health status if you wanted to really have a good outcome from, or really to survive some of these emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. So the importance of keeping well and keeping healthy was certainly something that came out of that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let me go now to Dr. Taylor Christmas. Overview of cervical cancer and screening. You're a gynecologic oncologist at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital. Do I have that right?
You have it 100% correct.
And what does a gynecologic oncologist do?
All right, so a gynecologist is somebody that takes care of women's health issues. So usually when you start menstruating, to pregnancy, to after menopause, and any issues in between those life phases. And an oncologist is somebody that deals with cancer care. So I deal with female cancer care, primarily by providing surgery, but working with other members in the team to give holistic care for patients who have female cancers. And so that's why I'm here to talk about cancer of the cervix this evening. So the cervix is also called the neck of the womb, and the womb is the neck of the womb. Okay. So it's that pear-shaped organ, female reproductive organ that sits in the pelvis, and the cervix is located just at the bottom, right at the very top inside the vagina. And the womb is where, for those who may not be aware, it's where bleeding comes from when you menstruate, or where the baby is when you're pregnant. Right. And so at the very top there, the neck of the womb is the cervix, and that's where cervical cancer occurs. And why is cervical cancer important? Because we see a lot of cases in Jamaica, and unfortunately, it's one of the top 3 female cancers in Jamaica, following breast, which everybody, I think, knows about, right, and uterine cancer, or cancer of the body, the upper part of the womb. Despite being number 3, it's the second leading cause of death for female cancers in Jamaica. So that shows us that there's some gaps in terms of maybe presentation or the care that's given for this cancer. And the deaths increase consistently with age from 30 years upwards. It's not all.
If I could just ask you, Doc, because that age of 30 has struck me.
Right.
Because I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought it would have been perhaps more prevalent in persons or women who are older. Is there a reason why we're starting to see it at such a young age?
Well, the peak incidence, so the age that we see it most at, is from 50 to 54 years. And that's just because of the timeline of how it develops. So most patients are going to be in their 50s when they present with symptoms of cervical cancer. But we do see young patients, sometimes even in their 20s, who have it, which is unusual because of how it develops. But the earlier that we detect it, the better the patients do. It's not all bad news for us because our numbers are declining. Okay. So the number of new patients that we see each year has gone down from 2018 to the last check that they did in 2022. And the deaths are also going down. But in terms of the entire Caribbean, we're still like in the top 3 in terms of deaths for the English-speaking Caribbean. So we have work to do in Jamaica, and the ministry has undertaken some special programs now to try and improve the outcomes with cervical cancer. So you had said that you were wondering about starting at 30. Correct. So cervical cancer is unique in that we know exactly what causes it. And so most of the cases are caused by HPV, which stands for human papilloma virus, which is a virus that likes to infect the genital area, so the cervix, the vagina, around the bottom, the head of the penis. And some also like to infect inside the throat. And it sits there, and most people will clear the infection, but some people, they have a persistent infection. And if it lasts for a long time, it can actually change the DNA in your cells in that area. And then eventually those abnormal changes, which go through some stages, becomes cancer if we don't pick it up and treat it.
And are there
early.
any particular signs or symptoms that women should be looking at to say, okay, I may have HPV and therefore I need to get screened or checked?
All right. So unfortunately, there aren't any clear symptoms of HPV infection. It's quite common in the population. It's usually passed by sexual contact, although it can be passed by contact with objects, such as like a towel or something that has been infected, but mostly by sexual contact between a male and a female. And so we don't want you to wait until you have symptoms, because if you have symptoms, usually then there is something more serious than HPV infection. So in terms of our situation, most people present in an advanced stage when they're having really bad symptoms. And when the cancer is advanced, it's less amenable to surgery and they have to get radiation and chemotherapy, which uses more of our resources, hospital resources, as Dr. Mead was talking about, nursing
which
time.
then threatens the resilience.
But also for the patient herself, it's more strenuous for her because it's a longer time off from work and from her family responsibilities, and it's a little bit harder on the body in terms of going through radiation and chemotherapy.
So then let me ask, because screening is available clearly.
Yes.
So is it that our women are slow to come to screening?
So unfortunately, when we compare ourselves to other countries that have really good screening programs where patients are screened regularly, we see that we just are not screening. And cervical cancer is unique in the fact that it can be screened for in an easy, relatively, should be pain-free, cheap, very accessible way compared to other cancers. And we can pick it up early before it becomes cancerous and then treat it. And the way that we screen for cervical cancer is by doing something called cytology, or the pap smear, where we take a sample off of the cervix and send it to the lab, and they look at the cells and see if they are abnormal. And we can also test for HPV itself, which is something newer it's accepted in other countries. It's not quite on stream in Jamaica as yet, although you may get it in some private gynecologists. But that's another way that we can check to see what your risk for cervical cancer is. And if the pap smear or the HPV test comes back abnormal, then you go for further investigations at a specialist clinic or the gynecologist, who will do more tests, including maybe a biopsy, to see what treatment is needed.
At what age should our women start screening?
So for us, we start screening at 21 years if you are of average risk. And some of the risk factors that would make you higher risk would be patients with HIV, if you have a compromised immune system, if you smoke, and smoking is a very strong risk factor, as is HIV. For women who were exposed to a hormone called diethylstilbestrol when their mother was pregnant with them, it's not very common nowadays. So it's not common to find a patient with that risk factor. Or if you previously had a high-risk abnormal pap smear or result from your cervix, then that puts you at increased risk. So you would have to be screened a little bit different to the person who is at average risk.
The obvious question here, is screening expensive or is it free? Because I'm trying to understand why we'd be slow to screening.
So in general, I think Jamaica is not a very good health-seeking population, so we're a bit reluctant to screen for all the cancers that you'll hear about today. So in terms of cervical cancer, another wonderful thing about it, it's very cheap. So it's free in the public health system, so you can go to any health center that's near to you, and our primary care system is very good. So there are health centers in every community. You may have to walk a little bit, but there's a health center close to everyone, basically.
So, Doc, once the woman goes to the health center and says, I want to be screened for cervical cancer, it's absolutely free?
Yes, there is no cost to the patient there. And in addition to that, as you would have heard recently, the National Health Fund announced that for the private sector, there will be a co-payment through the National Health Fund.
Okay. All right, Dr. Cornwall, I heard some troubling things about cervical cancer. Is that the same as it relates to breast cancer and screening?
You know, it really is the same. The breast, let me just backdrop on the fact that the breast is the commonest site for cancer in women in Jamaica. Breast cancer is the commonest cancer in women in Jamaica. And also it is the most, in terms of all the cancers, it's the leading cause of cancer death in women in Jamaica. One of the things that we're having a problem with in Jamaica in terms of breast cancer is that women are presenting late. Most women are presenting when they already have lymph node involved in the breast cancer. And when I say I have lymph node involved, the cancer starts in the breast. The fact that it's a cancer, it means that it has the ability to spread to other organs and invade and destroy these other organs. So it can spread to the liver, to the lymph nodes, to the lungs, to the bones. One of the first places it may tend to spread to is up under the arm, closest to the breast.
Yes.
Right? And we get more than 70% of our women who present with breast cancer already have node in the arm, or the waxen cannon as you call it. They already have involvement of the nodes under the arm and beyond, even the liver and stuff. So we have a big problem that we are screening less than 10% of women in Jamaica. So I want to explain what screening means so people could hear and understand.
Yeah.
So there is, when you do a test when you don't have any symptoms at all, meaning you get up, your breasts feel airy, you don't have no lumps, no nipple discharge, no skin rash, the nipple don't have any rash, your nipple, your breast them fine, you feel your breast don't have no lump, nothing, no nipple, nothing at all.
Breast is at its best.
Breast at its best.
Yes.
Right? Your breast them feel good. That is the time to do the mammogram or to do the screening. So if you are doing a test to check for a disease when you have no symptoms at all, you feel good and fine and dandy, that is screening. Now, if you wait until you have a lump or a nipple discharge or something happening to alert you to the breast, that is no longer screening.
Oh, what do we call that?
That is called symptomatic. Right?
Because
so you
something prompted you going in.
To go to get checked.
Got you.
And that's a critical problem here in Jamaica, where most of our people are doing the test in a reaction to a symptom that they have, as opposed to getting up and feeling fine, healthy, feel your breast, nothing in the breast at all, and saying, thank you, Jesus, that my breasts feel good, let me go and get them checked. And that's one of the biggest problem that we have.
Okay, so the healthy woman, her breast is at its best. How often should she be doing that kind of screening?
So, generally speaking, first of all, we start screening with a mammogram, right? An X-ray of the breast. And a woman really, if a woman is not from cancer family, no breast cancer in the family, or ovarian cancer, or any of these cancers that are associated with breast, where if a woman has no history of cancer in her family or anything, then that woman starts screening at the age of 40. Because at that age, what becomes the problem is getting older. So getting older is good. The opposite of getting older is to die young. Right? But getting older has responsibilities.
Yes.
And one of those responsibilities is that you need to have to check your body, check yourself, to make sure that all your organs and everything is intact and functioning, and no cancer is there hiding. Because, as I said, the teeth of cancer is, as you get older, the chance of getting a cancer increases. Age is one of the biggest risk factor for getting breast cancer.
Just age by itself?
Older, yes. Being a woman and getting older, that's all that is needed to have a possibility of getting breast cancer. Now, if there's an increased if you have cancer in your family, breast cancer and stuff, in your family, or even ovarian cancer, then the risk increases more. So the women who start screening at age 40 are those who have no cancer in their family. Right. Women who have breast cancer in their family may have to start screening as early as 30.
A full decade before.
Yes.
You talked about checking your body. Is there I'm going to say, standard way that a woman checks her breast to make sure it's at its best?
So hear this now. When I say check your body, I mean there's always importance to be aware of your body.
Right.
So every month after the menstrual period, we encourage women, young girls, from teenagers coming up. My youngest patient is 17, breast cancer that is. We encourage all teenagers coming from teenagers coming up 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right through, to examine their breast every month at the end of the menstrual cycle, if they are in the menstrual time. And in the postmenopausal, you just find the time every month to do it every time and examine it. Now, if you're in your teenage years coming up before the age of 40, you examine your breast every month. If you feel any difference or change or lump or anything, go and get that checked. Go to your doctor and get that checked. Right? Now, if you don't feel anything, then you may not have a need to go and check anything in the breast with that. Now, when a woman reaches, though, the age of 40, the tempo change. Even if the breast feels normal, at that time, that normal breast needs to be brought to us in the mammogram area, in the X-ray department, to get the breast checked to make sure that they are normal and good for truth.
Got you. We heard that the screening for cervical cancer is free at the primary health care centers. What about breast cancer? Same situation?
Breast cancer is screened by doing a mammogram. Recently, there is always been a push to try to get mammogram in the public sector, and we now have a push by the ministry to put mammogram in the public sector, KPH and Cornwall region, and they are working at this. It's a work in progress.
Okay.
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
Right? So it's a work that we've started to make inways into getting it into the public sector. So most of it, however, is done privately and at University Hospital of the West Indies and in the private sector. But they're at the ministry
making inroads.
We have lots of things to do to get that's a work in progress, but we are making inroads to getting, and it could also be gotten a mammogram at the Jamaica Cancer Society, and we are getting into the public sector, but all of those, except the public sector at KPH and Cornwall, those are the only two places where it is free.
All right.
But it is a work in progress. We have lots of hurdles to get over to really get it out.
And we do have a plan to really get this island-wide in all the regions.
All right.
So we're now working towards that.
Hold it there for me. Dr. Cornwall, the takeaway there, bring the breast when it's at its best.
Absolutely.
We take a break here. It's the MAJ's Symposium 2024. Soon come.
Some dream of owning their very own store, meet a cafe or florist, or growing one into more. Where one dreams of making luxury shopping the norm, others dream of sports cars, the kind that perform. But one thing in common these dreamers all need is to build their wealth so they can achieve.
Never settle for less than your dreams with Sagicor Investments. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with a wealth advisor.
For better medication management, use RX Pack mobile app powered by Hauntons RX, the convenient pharmacy. Boost your wellness status and earn 20% in your RX Plus digital wallet for all your Hauntons pharmacies purchases. Download the RX Pack mobile app in the App Store or the Google Play Store. It is easy, secure, and user-friendly. Call or knowledgeable staff on WhatsApp 876-RX0-RXRX and experience our brand of wellness simply delivered. That's RX Pharmacy, the convenient pharmacy, and RX Pack for better medication management. We deliver everywhere. Terms apply.
Super Center, everything for your home and more.
And we mean everything, not just houseware and appliances. At Zan Super Center, we have furniture too. Furniture for your living room, dining room, bedroom, kitchen, and more. Low on cash? At Zan Super Center, we have layaway plans. Don't delay. Come in today.
Zan Super Center, we're gonna make you smile. Zan Super Center, it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Touching lives every day, so many different ways, a part of all you do. Sagicor will make you feel secure, reaching out for more, we'll always see you through. Reach for more, whatever you're dreaming, whatever your goals, will help you achieve them. You're never alone, taking care of today's needs, take care of tomorrow's dreams, every day helping you succeed. That's what Sagicor means. Today's needs, tomorrow's dreams. Sagicor.
This outstanding 6'4" athlete credits Jamaica with her first Olympic victory ever.
Jamaica is filled with Olympians.
World record holder McKinley dashes into the lead.
We must never forget the forerunners of Jamaican Olympic greatness.
Coming into the home stretch, it's Wint who challenges the leader.
Win or lose, athletes never forget their Olympic experience.
Merely Notti has devastated another world-class field. And Hemmings is going to do it. Hemmings wins it. She's the champion. A personal...
Win or lose, Jamaicans will cheer the loudest at the Olympics so that the world will never forget who we are.
And Usain Bolt is moving away. And Jamaica retain their title. And the world record has been taken apart. Oh, I say.
From July 26 to August 11, tune in only to Nationwide 90 FM for the coverage of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, because we're here to ensure that you never forget. Nationwide's coverage is powered by our bronze sponsors: National Road Operating and Construction Company Limited, Digicel, Grace Foods, Spirits of Jamaica, Imperial Optical Jamaica, and Rainforest Caribbean.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose fittings and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
Calling all fishermen in Jamaica. We are in the hurricane season. Weather changes are more frequent and you need your daily marine weather forecast to keep you informed of these changes. Hurry and register now with the Jamaica Fishermen Cooperative Union Limited. They will see that you get your daily marine report on time. Visit them at 44 Beechwood Avenue or call 876-968-0411. Don't delay.
As a parent, you give your children a good start in life. You nurture, protect, and guide them. Parenting is a process that prepares your child for independence. As your child grows and develops, there are many things you can do to help your child. Stay tuned to The Big Show, Nationwide This Morning, for parenting tips. Fridays at 6:53 a.m. Only here will you learn everything you need to know about parenting. Tips to help parents navigate the incredibly challenging and rewarding journey of child rearing. Parenting tips on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
My name is Kedrin Campbell. I come from the Appleton Basic School. My favorite Olympic hero is Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
Watch for Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
Looking back now, I say there's no barrier when it comes to your passion and your calling, as time honors your greatness. So I thank you so much, and I pray that you'll be an inspiration to all young girls, mainly the girls, to know that there's no limits when you believe what you believe and continue to work hard. We are strong, we are powerful, and most importantly, we are fearless.
It's glorious gold once again to Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
Stay tuned to the Paris Olympic on Nationwide 90 FM. Yeah!
No mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team. Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, The revolution in media.
Welcome back to the 2024 MAJ Symposium. The MAJ, of course, the Medical Association of Jamaica. I'm Ricardo Brooks, and they're observing this symposium. The theme of the symposium is Resilience in Healthcare, a global imperative. I still have with me Director of Non-Communicable Diseases and Injuries Prevention at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Tamu Davidson, Consultant Physician and Gastroenterologist, Dr. Mike Mills, who is also Vice President of the Medical Association, is now joining us online. Still with me, gynecologic oncologist at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, Dr. Anna K. Taylor Christmas, consultant radiologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, Dr. Deria Cornwall is still with me as well. Dr. Mills, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to your panel. Good evening to your listeners.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, so talk to us now about gastroenterology. What does your field cover?
Gastroenterology is the study of the digestive diseases and its related organs. So the liver, gallbladder, pancreas, anything to do with digestion. So it's a subspecialty of internal medicine, which is that field which deals with adult patients and their internal organs and the systems that connect. So a lot of it has to do with the NCDs that we're speaking about, and gastroenterology, or GI as we commonly call it, has anything to do with digestion.
Mm-hmm. And how common are cancers of the digestive tract?
Unfortunately, like most other organ systems, GI cancers are fairly common. In particular, we want to focus on colorectal cancer, but you can have cancers affecting any part of the digestive system. So the esophagus or the gullet, which is that tube that leads from the mouth down to the stomach, can be affected. Your stomach itself can be affected. You can have intestinal cancer as well. Small intestine cancer is not that common. And the one that we're really focusing on in terms of screening and trying to reduce the incidence is colorectal cancer, which is cancer of the large intestine, of which the colon is the major part, and then the rectum is the last part of that digestive tract. And once that's affected, then you want to try and make sure that individuals have enough information to reduce the frequency of this condition, because it's something that we can actually do things about to reduce the impact on our healthcare system.
Mm-hmm. And are the risk factors that we've been hearing of all evening, are those the same for colorectal cancer?
Yeah, so the number one thing that we are concerned about is that colorectal cancer is associated with what are known as modifiable risk factors and non-modifiable risk factors. So the ones that we're speaking about, age, and for example, you've heard about the impact of age on the different cancers, and colon is not any different from any of the others. In fact, it's the number one risk factor for colorectal cancer, and it places individuals at either average risk or increased risk. Now, age is important because you need to take certain steps at a specific age to reduce the impact of this condition. The age that's most commonly affected with regards to colorectal cancer is above the age of 65, but we don't want to wait until that age before we actually start taking steps to reduce the incidence of this condition. So we want to look at a specific age where we implement screening, and that age has been falling because the incidence of colorectal cancer has been increasing, unfortunately. When it comes to our own population, we recognize that colorectal cancer, first of all, it's important to establish that it affects both males and females. We still get questions from individuals who wonder whether males or females have colons. So both genders have a colon or large intestine, and so both can be affected. Individuals, once they reach a specific age, they have the risk factor which can be modified. Outside of that, there are other conditions which can increase your risk. So paying attention to your lifestyle, cutting back on things which impact negatively, like smoking, eliminating smoking completely, alcohol consumption, reducing alcohol consumption, making sure your diet is not heavy in processed meat, cutting back on red meat in particular is important, cutting back on very high fatty foods, making sure that your diet has a lot of fiber, so a high fiber diet to encourage regular bowel actions is also important. These are some of the things which are modifiable. Outside of that, there are some other medical conditions which individuals need to be aware of. Some of them are genetic. So knowing if you have a risk factor for certain types of polyps, which are precancerous growths which can occur inside the colon, which may be more common in some individuals than others, and you need to know what your family history is to try and decide when you need to take appropriate steps to do screening. So there are a number of factors to be looked at, which individuals need to pay attention to. But the key thing is that colorectal cancer affects both males and females. Right now, for males, based on the data that we have in 2022, it looks like the incidence has actually increased. So it used to be number 3 in males behind prostate and lung, but has now crept up to be the second leading cause of cancer-related death in males, and that's a worrying figure. For females, it's still fairly common, so it remains number 3 on the list, behind breast, as we mentioned before, and the cancers of the genitourinary tract, so cervix and uterus. So it's very common, and it's something that we need to pay attention to, because there's a worrying trend that the incidence may be increasing, and it may be affecting individuals younger and younger.
I just got a message, Doc. Someone said to me, did I hear that correctly? Did the doc say that it affects both men and women? And in the last part of the message, I almost smiled. I didn't know a woman had a colon.
Yes, and as strange as that may sound to some individuals, the reality is that we need to improve our level of education about our bodies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just a simple thing as knowing that individuals have a colon will put them steps forward in trying to take steps to try and improve their health. So yes, it does affect both males and females because everyone does have a colon. Everyone needs to know what their risk profile is, whether you're average risk or whether you have an increased risk. Knowing what your family history is, knowing what steps you need to take to try and improve the outcomes.
Mm-hmm. And Doc, in terms of screening for colorectal cancer, what's that like?
Okay, so a number of studies have shown that 2 things which will impact screening are knowledge about the condition and the tests available and having appropriate access to these tests. So screening has been improving, I would say locally based on experience. If you were to look 25, 30 years ago, no one was speaking about screening for colorectal cancer. But here we are having a symposium, and it's one of the things which we're looking at. So it has been improving, access is improving, but still a number of things need to be done to improve that. In terms of knowledge, screening needs to begin at age 45 for average risk individuals. And the 2 screening tests that we tend to look at would be those which look for signs that something is already present. So for example, looking for a precancerous condition like a polyp and removing that, and tests which actually look to see if we can identify individuals before they have any type of indication. So looking, for example, at the lining of the bowel before any evidence of blood shows up. So there are 2 general types of ways to do this. The first and the most convenient and the most effective way of doing general population screening is normally done by individuals when they're checking their annual executive profile, for example, and you do a stool test for blood. So this is not where you see blood in the stool, but this is when you send a sample to the lab and it shows evidence of microscopic blood. So that's an indication that something may be present in the colon, of which cancer is one possibility. It prompts you then to do a second test. And that second test is usually something like a colonoscopy, for example, which is passing a camera through the large bowel to look for signs of polyps or to look for a cancer at an early stage. There are other tests, of course, which can be done. So colonoscopy is one. It's the so-called gold standard test. You can also do a radiological test, a CT scan of the colon, which allows you to identify images inside the colon, look for polyps or tumors. There are other tests available as well, which can check to see what your one segment of the colon is, called a sigmoidoscopy, which is similar to a colonoscopy. And then there are some other auxiliary tests which may not be available locally, which can check the stool in more detail to see whether or not you have evidence of early colorectal cancer. But the key thing is to do some type of screening test at the appropriate age and we're recommending age 45. It used to be 50. That age has shifted downward because we're seeing more and more individuals at a younger age presenting with far more advanced cancer. And you want to intervene early to be able to improve the outcomes. So doing a stool test for blood, and it has to be done annually, is the most accessible way of doing it. Doing a colonoscopy, if you have access to that, which is available island-wide, but to a limited degree because there is some cost associated with it, and you do need to have trained individuals capable of performing the procedure. But once it is done, it is protective for a longer period of time, up to 10 years. If it's normal, or if you see something abnormal, then you can take steps to remove it, to prevent progression of cancer by removing things like the polyps, which you spoke about before.
Doc, I'm just going to read this one to you as it has come in. I want to do the test, but ask Doc if it hot.
Yes. So I'm saying yes, not because it's hot, but I'm saying that this question comes up very commonly. And this individual is not alone in asking. So a lot of times individuals don't do the test because of fear about the procedure or the possible outcomes, and not being able to understand what the test is all about. And this fear prevents them from actually doing it. So asking is important. There is screening done by colonoscopy, and that's probably what she's referring to, where we pass the camera through. Sedation is given. So individuals are put to sleep. It's not a general anesthetic. It's similar to when you receive Valium intravenously. It takes about 20 minutes of procedure time to pass the camera through. So in a well-done colonoscopy, patients do not have any challenges in terms of discomfort or pain. And it is something which we do recognize that individuals need to be aware of, because it sounds like a very dramatic procedure, but it's something which is done quite routinely worldwide.
Yeah. All right, Doc. Do we have Dr. Morrison with us? Dr. Morrison, good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so Dr. Morrison is consultant urologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies. Doc, it falls to you to give us the overview now of the state of prostate cancer and screening in Jamaica.
Sure. So thanks for having me. You know, prostate cancer is actually the #1 cancer seen in Jamaica. Maybe about approximately 40% of cancers that we see in men in Jamaica are prostate cancer. We've known the burden of prostate cancer for many, many years. And I think if we look at all the data that has been published, whether it's from our Jamaica Cancer Registry, or even data published internationally from international groups that have collaborated on research, we see that prostate cancer is the leading cancer diagnosed, not only in men, but overall. So of all the cancers seen in Jamaica, prostate cancer is #1. It therefore means it's a major cancer. It has a high public health burden, not just in terms of how common it is seen, but also the fact that it is a leading cause of cancer-related deaths. So our men are likely to get the disease and then also likely to die from the disease. Our risk factors for getting prostate cancer are varied. It's a disease that is seen in men who are getting older. So you really don't see prostate cancer in younger men, not in their 20s or very rarely in their 30s, but it's a disease you're going to see in men 40 years and over. And that's the age that we recommend men start screening at. Another risk factor is family history. And so it's very, very important for men to have a conversation with their family members about any present or previous diagnosis of prostate cancer, because it does increase the risk. And the more family members who are diagnosed with prostate cancer is the more likely that man will have prostate cancer. I mean, I've treated in the past several men who are from, if you want to call it, prostate cancer families. And sometimes with one member of the family being diagnosed and they encourage others to go and get checked, you find that sometimes just 3 brothers in one family at one time have prostate cancer. It's very important to note. Breast cancer, funnily enough, also increases the risk for prostate cancer. So it's something we ask men about as well, if they have a family history of breast cancer, because the risk increases there. Yes. And in general, Black men are at highest risk of getting prostate cancer compared to any other racial group. Now, I'm not going to suggest
do we
that
know why that is, Doc?
it's probably genetically related. And it's true to say that all men are at risk for prostate cancer. In the United States, prostate cancer is the second leading cause of cancer. However, if you look at the United States or if you look at Europe and you look at the melting pots of various racial groups, Black men are 1.7 times more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and they're almost 2 times more likely to die from the disease. So it's not only more common in them, it's more aggressive in them.
Yeah. I have 2 young men in the studio with me, Doc, and when you were detailing the stats, they were sighing. So I suspect they're afraid of the screening. So let me ask you about screening, because I often hear my fellow Jamaican men say, boy, the finger thing there.
Yeah.
So is that the only way you can screen for prostate cancer?
No, and actually there's a more sensitive way to do it. It's obvious from the data that I presented that screening is necessary because it's a major burden. I'm sure everybody in the studio knows at least one person with prostate cancer, and probably one person who has died from prostate cancer. So it's common, it's very aggressive in our population. We have to pick it up early. I just want to say that there have been certain studies that have demonstrated that it's not just the fact that it's more aggressive in our population why men die from prostate cancer, but also because some men delay in screening. The screening tests are either doing a rectal examination, which is what most people are afraid of, or doing the PSA, which is a blood test. The fact is that the PSA is more likely to pick up an abnormality than the physical exam will, but it still is a test that must be done. You know, and we recommend in our population of men, so that's Black men, Jamaican men, to start at age 40, and it should be done once every year. As Dr. Mills said, as part of the male executive profile, they get their PSA done. It's routinely done, in fact. So if an executive profile is requested for someone over the age of 40 years, a PSA will always be a part of it. Unfortunately, not all men do an executive profile annually, and that's something that must be encouraged. I'm aware that certain jobs require to be done. For example, if you're in the Army, if you're a pilot, and certain corporations require that their staff members have this test done every year. But it's not the norm for all men, and it really should be. And it probably should start where men have a dedicated and a devoted family doctor that they see every year. I mean, the Jamaica Healthy Lifestyle Survey suggested very paltry levels of screening or even adherence to seeing a family doctor every year, where very few men had a dedicated and a devoted family doctor that they would see at least on an annual basis, not just because they had trauma or some infection or an injury, but because they just wanted to go and be evaluated. They're more likely women to go and have these checks done than a man. And if you go to any public health clinic, you would notice that who do you see sitting on the benches? It's mostly women.
That's true.
Not men.
Yeah.
So the health-seeking behavior for men is very poor. And really, this whole concept of screening that we're speaking about, we must emphasize that these people are going to do tests when they are feeling normal. That is not the norm for human beings. Human beings normally seek care when they feel sick.
Yes.
And for us as members of the medical profession, what we are asking is that when someone feels healthy and well, that they go and see a physician. It's not a normal thing to do. It's not a normal state for a person to seek help when they feel well. And therefore, it is very important for us to educate our population about the necessity of these annual tests. It really can save lives. And even in men who are high risk and probably are likely to get aggressive disease, if it is picked up early, they can get all the therapeutic options possible so that their lives can be saved.
Yeah. So it sounds, Dr. Corner, is not just the breast you must bring at the best. It's your whole body.
Whole body.
Whole body.
But let me ask you, Dr. Davidson, because I keep hearing that we're slow to screening, Is it that the messaging from the ministry is not penetrating? Is that the problem?
I think it's a combination of things. We do have we it's a show like this particular program that we use to get the message out.
Yes.
We work with civil society groups like Cancer Society and other groups to get that message out. But it's how the message is heard or taken. One of the things that we've been pushing with the Know Your Numbers and other Ministry of Health events is the focus on getting your annual health check so you feel well, you're fine. However, you should have, as mentioned by Dr. Morrison, your doctor that you visit. When we did, when we looked at even some of our food handlers, many persons report their regular visit is when they're sick to the hospital. They don't have a regular doctor. So through those regular routine visits, you can go, whether you're male or female, and they'll look at what age are you, you look at the gender, what are some of the health checks you need to do. Colorectal cancer is a risk, diabetes is a risk factor for colorectal cancer. So some of these things that patients may not even persons are not even aware of. So the main point we want to get home today, if you're sitting on your couch, wherever you are, including our health professionals as well, please, there you can come and visit us at the Ministry of Health in our health facilities, or you can choose your private physician, your doctor, but we just want persons to get their health checks done. You do it for your birthday present. Yes. Do it as a gift to a loved one. Valentine's gone already, but there's Christmas.
My birthday is next month.
Birthday.
I want the executive profile, okay?
Birthday. Go in and get your checks done.
Yes.
That is the way you'll know. Me personally, I've been doing my health checks from I was 10.
Yes.
That's just because of the type of parent I had.
Yes.
Right. But I've been doing this annually. So I know what my health status is. That's the first step. And then the second step is translating that into action. So once you know your health status, so one of the challenges we have is people are screened. They know they have a precancerous lesion, for example, with the cytology abnormal test. But then when we send them on to the next stage, there's a fear and concern. So what we are saying here is, these common cancers, we know that if you get screened, get your regular check, that we can save lives. You can live a productive life. We don't have to see these statistics that we do see. And everybody is impacted. Everyone is impacted. So everyone knows someone who has had cancer, may have had cancer, maybe sitting down somewhere, driving, thinking about it. We have persons who even have had breast cancer and have a reoccurrence and still sit at home with the symptoms and come in very late. And so we want to encourage people to take action. And if you know your loved one, encourage them and encourage your significant other to go out. So we want to see champions. So Ricardo, you're a champion for the men here, to really get our men, because that's one of the problems, as mentioned by Dr. Morrison, is that we're not seeing our men coming out. And even with our Know Your Numbers campaign, we're not seeing as many men as we'd like to see. And so the men are in different places, hustling in different spheres. And so this is where we really are pushing to really reach our men and our women. But one of the main things, take-home message, is to really get that annual health check
done. Dr. Cornell, you wanted to add something? I've just about a minute before the break.
That annual health check thing is a cultural shift that we have to have, I think the shift is more than, because when you get set in your ways. So what we have to encourage is that parents start taking your children to get annual checks. If they get into the culture, boys and girls, of getting checks, when they become teenagers, they'll continue to let them get checked because mommy and daddy in charge. When they get to become adults, young adults, encourage them to get checks. 30, so if they get into that, it's a cultural shift that we have to protect the next generation.
Yeah, that is such an excellent point. because even though I'm a physician, my culture of annual health checks started from when I was 10.
Right.
You know, and so if I don't have my annual health check, for me it's something that's abnormal, out of the norm. So I've already been indoctrinated into a culture of getting at least knowing my status.
You see, sometimes most parents may just take the children to get a dental.
Yes.
Go to your dentist. But it's not just dentists alone.
Yeah, other things are important. It's the 2024 MAJ Symposium. I'm learning a lot. I know my videographers are learning a lot because they're taking notes. And tell your friend to log on to our YouTube channel or just tune in on radio for the 2024 Symposium of the Medical Association of Jamaica. The theme, Resilience in Healthcare, a global imperative, discussing cancers, screening, and how we can better care for ourselves. We take the break, soon come back with more.
Corian Solid Surface, so versatile and beautiful. It's non-porous, no sealing necessary, renewable and repairable, so easy to clean and maintain, and can be thermoformed into any shape. Choose Corian, the #1 solid surface in the world, when you want beauty and the best for your countertop. Visit Home International Limited, located at 104 Constance Ring Road. Telephone 755-1970 or 924-0437.
Some dreamers picture a place they call home, a house with no mortgage, a home that they own. Some dream of owning their very own store, meet a cafe or florist, or growing one into more. Where one dreams of making luxury shopping the norm, others dream of sports cars, the kind that perform. But one thing in common these dreamers all need is to build their wealth so they can achieve.
Never settle for less than your dreams with Sagicor Investments. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with a wealth advisor.
Attention engine enthusiasts in Jamaica. Did you know that Lucalza Caribbean is the only authorized distributor of Chevron lubricants? Lucalza has been the trusted partner for Chevron lubricants in Jamaica for over 13 years, offering the full range of Chevron and Texaco products including Ursa, Haviland, Supreme, Delo and more. For peace of mind and superior engine care, trust the Chevron lubricants portfolio, distributed by Lucalza Caribbean and their network of reliable resellers. Don't compromise your engine performance. Drive with Chevron. Drive with confidence.
The following is an excerpt from the Minister of Justice, Delroy Chuck's sectoral presentation, Providing Justice, Transforming Lives.
Madam Speaker, over the past years, the Court of Appeal's clearance rate has peaked over 100%, to 111% in 2022 and 118% in 2023. This means, Madam Speaker, that of every 100 new cases filed, 111 or 118 have been completed. Madam Speaker, to understand, although increased cases are coming into the parish courts, into the Supreme Court, into the Court of Appeal, both the parish courts and the Court of Appeal have been able to complete more, that is over 100%, than actually coming. So for every 100 cases that come in the Court of Appeal, 111 or 118 cases are actually completed. And we expect, Madam Speaker, that this steady improvement will continue. Regarding the backlog in the Supreme Court, the clearance rate is not yet 100%, but it is now 76.5% in 2023. However, Madam Speaker, with the new strategic plan, the Chief Justice is projecting that within another 5 years or so, clearance rate in the Supreme Court will be in excess of 100%, and backlog will soon become a thing of the past in courts across Jamaica. Madam Speaker, the Chief Justice has embarked on a new strategic plan for 2024 to 2028, which can be accessed on the website of the Supreme Court. More important, Madam Speaker, the Executive and this Parliament will provide the necessary resources to support this new strategic plan and to ensure that there's little or no interruption in executing the plan.
The proceeding was an excerpt from the Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck's sectoral presentation. For information on justice services, call 888-JUSTICE, that's 888-587-8423, or visit at MOJ Official on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. The Ministry of Justice, providing justice, transforming lives.
Touching lives every day, so many different ways, a part of all you do. Sagicor will make you feel secure, reaching out for more, will always see you through. Reach for more, whatever you're dreaming, whatever your goals, will help you achieve them. You're never alone, taking care of today's needs, take care of tomorrow's dreams, every day helping you succeed. That's what Sagicor means. Today's needs, tomorrow's dreams. Sagicor.
This Father's Day, escape to the Pampered Temple for ultimate relaxation. Adam and Eve Day Spa. All treatments are infused to melt your tension and remove stress. Pampered Dad with a massage, facial, body treatment, and mani-pedi. Unwind at Adam and Eve and enjoy complimentary Pure Country juices and Johnny Walker. But now at www.adamandevedayspaja.com. Purchase gift certificates. Call 876-754-6017 or WhatsApp 876-567-2142 for details.
With so much to do in one location, make Megamart your one-stop shop. Pick up your groceries and houseware needs, grab a bite and pay some bills. Fill your prescriptions and see the beauty products in our pharmacy. All in one amazing location. My Megamart, the best value by far.
We've been a part of everyday Jamaican life for over 25 years. From paydays to birthdays, unexpected emergencies to anniversary celebrations, the supermarket checkout line, or paying a bill or taxes on time. Our fast, secure debit network provides reliable service so you can always depend on Multilink. Jamaican and proud, fast, secure, everywhere.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of The Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
The Oasis is brought to you by Solar Tech Jamaica. We use the gift of the sun to power our world.
Yes, I have been screened particularly for the ovarian cancer. I think that is one that we do when we do the pap smear. And normally it is recommended that after a woman have a child, within 6 weeks, she should do that screening. But what I do find a little bit, somewhere down the line is that most persons, they are not doing it. I think it is because they're afraid to find out what is happening with their bodies. And because of that, you find so many Jamaicans, they are not getting it done. And not just so for females, but also for males, the prostate, they're afraid to do it. And I don't think it's something that you should be afraid to do because, listen, if you know what is happening inside your bodies, it will give the medical association, it will also give the person within the insurance field or whichever field that you want to think about, the chance to fix it or to assist you.
Because the easier, the earlier it is detected, the best it is for you and for everybody else, even your family. So we're going to get tested, yeah?
Yes, but not of lately. I've done my pap smear cervical cancer and I've done breast cancer in the past. The experience was okay. I think it all depends on who is doing it. Some people can be nervous, but it all depends on the medical practitioner behind it.
Yes, I've done the prostate cancer screening. I did the original one first. The method is rough. Method is rough because the thing is that you hear about it, and then to actually do it, I had to do it that way when I had Chick V. So they were checking for everything. But the doctor at that time was very pleasant. She walked me through it about an hour board, to guide me through. And but then I found out I can beat by the blood test. So the blood test one was way more pleasant. I did it last year and I'm due to do it this year again.
Yes, I have been screened for pap smear. And the reason is because I believe that it's important for a female to actually know what goes on inside of her body. And if there's any detection that we can, get to jump at it fast to alleviate or prevent any further spreading, whatever it is that can be done at the time. Because the earlier you find out the situation, then it's best for you. And you're more able to be relaxed about doing the different tests or whatever it is that would have been required to, get this thing under control. If should there be anything, any diagnosis or anything that shows up negative or positive on your results.
I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I had prostate problem, and there was one time where I took sick, the balls them get big, penis about the size of my hand, and I went to public, and they said the only solution to the problem is surgery. They said, no, sir, I won't go cut. Anyway, I go to a doctor. The doctor said, then where them I go cut? Him send me now to a urologist. And that's where the process started. Biopsy, the worst cut of UC, they put in the tube and the urine, everything. Mr. Gentleman, I would tell my worst enemy go do a prostate test. My worst enemy do a prostate test. Everything starts there.
Everybody have to run, come now. Come get your test, see the cancer. Now, from you see me on the one uptown, you have to get your tested right now because the cancer with the outside on the ground right now. Cancer time. Everybody general line, come get tested.
Ordinary Jamaicans, we posed a question to them asking if they've ever been tested for any kind of cancer. I just want to pick up with you, Dr. Mills, because we are getting questions on our YouTube platform, and I'm reminding you, listeners, viewers, that you can pose your questions on YouTube. Our producer will be there to take those questions. So this question, Dr. Mills says, my executive profile is clean. Do I still need to do a colonoscopy? Dr. Mills? All right, not hearing Dr. Mills just now. All right, so let me go back to you now, Dr. Cornwall, regarding the myths. Dr. Mills?
I'm sorry, we were not hearing the video at all, so we didn't hear anything that was being played. Sorry.
All right, so sorry about that.
A question?
Yes, a question from YouTube says, my executive profile is clean. Do I still need to do a colonoscopy?
Okay, so they didn't comment on the age of the individual, but if they're over the age of 45 and have identified that they've never had any screening for colorectal cancer done, and they didn't do a stool test for blood as part of it, then a colonoscopy is a good option. If they did do a stool test for blood at the time they did exec, and it didn't show any blood, they need to do that stool test every year, but it has to be 3 samples. So doing just 1 sample is not sufficient. It has to be 3 samples for the year, all negative and done every year to be effective. Or they can forego doing any stool test and just do the colonoscopy, which is protective.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mills. All right. So, Dr. Cornwall, during the break, we were talking about some of the myths. That might be part of the reason why our people are staying away from screening. One of the questions was posed to Dr. Mills earlier, if it hot. Yes? So what are some of the myths that you encounter in practice as to why our people are staying away from screening?
Okay, so one of the myths is that breast cancer is hot, right? Because we're going to be really hot. Not really hot, hot. So, so while a mammogram is not it shouldn't be a painful test.
Yes.
There's the mammogram actually, I want women, everyone here.
That's the one where I see they take the breast and they put it between two clamps?
Right. But that's a gentle clamp.
Oh, okay.
So I want to, the mammogram machine, as a matter of fact, the mammogram is our friend.
All right.
The Lord knew in all his wisdom that the breast would be a very common place for cancer in women. So he gave us a technology to form this machine that can pick up the cancer very early, 2 or 3 years before a lump is felt, to get it early. So when you go to do a mammogram, when you fill out the form and you go into the room, then the doctor, the radiographer will put the breast between two plates and give it a gentle clamp. It's not supposed to be a tight squeeze where it's not supposed to be a rough test. It's a gentle test that it's supposed to be. Now, some women have tender breasts, and even if you touch them, they feel pain. So for women like that, if you bounce past them, they might feel pain. Then even if you have to take 2 Panadol, take the 2 Panadol and do the mammogram.
Yes.
But it's not supposed to be a painful test where they rough you up and don't treat you gently and nice. And for 2 minutes, so when they put the breast under the clamp, couple seconds, they take a picture and then you release. Then the next breast, couple seconds, they take a picture and you release. And then they might do that for two times or 3 times for the breast. So should not be a painful, uncomfortable test at all, except for some people who generally have painful, tender breasts. So it's not supposed to be a hot test, but it could be a little uncomfortable sometimes, but not bad.
Yeah.
So that's one myth. So, and even if there was a little pain, take 2 Panadol and go and do a test. One of the things that can be done to ease off the pain is to do the test, schedule the test to your advantage. Some women, when they're around their menstrual period time, their breasts may feel very tender. So do the examination, the mammogram, after the menstrual period, when the breast should be a little less tender.
Right.
Next myth is that the mammogram causes cancer. Boy, that radiation, that will cause cancer. So that is also a myth. That means that it is false. It's not true. The amount of radiation that the breast is exposed to during a mammogram is equivalent to the background radiation that a woman, all of us would have experienced for just living on Earth.
Yeah.
So while we are here sitting, we are exposed to radiation. When you walk outside, you go to the car, you go in your kitchen, you go in your house, you go in your bedroom, your bathroom, everywhere, you are getting radiation. That's background radiation that we cannot escape. And the amount of radiation that you would have normally accumulated background getting while just living on Earth for the past 3 months, when you do a mammogram, that is how much radiation you get at that one sitting.
Okay.
Now, if that was to kill a woman, then everybody would be dead. Because you have 3 months in a year. And then you live 1 year, 2 years, you know how many 3 months we'd have all been dead already. Put another way, the amount of radiation that a woman gets when they do a mammogram is like taking a round-trip flight. When the plane goes up in the air to go to New York, Miami, or wherever around the world, there is exposure to UV radiation as the plane gets up. And that radiation that a person is exposed to when they do a flight, a trip, a round trip, that radiation is what a mammogram exposes someone to. And if that was to kill you, everybody would be dead. We all take flights.
Yes.
Understood? So I just want to explain that radiation dose is low. And is not a lethal thing. So I would put that radiation exposure to rest.
Yes.
Some people now say that the mammogram would squash the breast and squeeze the breast and squeeze out cancer and cause cancer. That is not true.
Yeah.
You know, that is not true. Some women also say that I'm not going for no mammogram. Once I don't feel no lump or I don't feel anything, I am not going for a mammogram.
But we know we're supposed to bring it at its best.
Bring it when it's at its best.
Right.
So we quell that. Another myth that some people say, oh, I have to get a paper from a doctor to go to get a mammogram. That is not true. Just like how you can go and get your pap smear without a paper from a doctor. It's the same way. Once a woman has reached the age of 40, she can just take the breast to the mammogram place, get the mammogram done, and take the breast back home.
Yeah.
Give the breast an outing.
Ah.
Right? You don't need a paper from a doctor to give the breast an outing. once a year, and you clock it. Every year you clock it. And some women now will start and say, I do one mammogram, good, I don't need to do no more.
Yes.
That's a myth. Because getting older is the biggest risk factor to getting breast cancer. So basically, once you reach 40, if you don't have cancer in your family, you're locked in, you know. Every year your risk is higher. So the year when you shouldn't have do it is last year, not this year.
Yeah.
And this year now you're 1 year older.
Yes. Give the breasts an outing. Dr. Taylor Christmas, you have a prevalent myth, a vaccine myth, that the vaccine causes HPV.
Right, so some people believe, and they're not correct, that the vaccine will cause infertility. It's a ploy by the rich people to kill off black people, that they're putting things in the vaccine so you can pick up 5G technology, and that is going to make girls have sex when you give them the vaccine, is going to encourage it. But we know that cervical cancer is one of the very few cancers that you can actually prevent by vaccination. So we can give this gift to our children, our daughters and our sons, where we vaccinate them early, and then we can prevent them when they reach their 50s from developing cervical cancer. And there are very few cancers, certainly not prostate, breast, or colon, that we have that available to us. If we give them vaccination, which is free from the Ministry of Health for school-age children, we vaccinate them and then get screened, we can almost eliminate cervical cancer. Because again, cervical cancer has several stages that it goes through before it becomes cancerous. And we can pick up those abnormalities easily and treat them really quickly in the clinic as an outpatient. You don't even have to go to sleep to be treated, right? And you take 2 Panadol and that's it. And you can get rid of cancer of the cervix forever. So if we vaccinate our children, our girls and boys, and we screen and do our pap test and check for HPV and just consistently do it the way that we're supposed to do it every 3 years if you're low risk, or every year if you have high risk factors in yourself or your family, we can eliminate it as a problem. I don't know if we can say that for any other cancer that we're battling with in the world, but we can eliminate cervical cancer.
Have you found that since COVID-19, the resistance to the vaccine has grown or increased?
I think that COVID has amplified things that were there before, but the resistance was predated COVID. So we did have some issues with the rollout of the HPV vaccine. But if we look at other countries, for example, Australia, they have had a vaccination program for their school children for many years now. They started a long time ago. They made it mandatory for all their school-age girls and then boys. And they have basically eliminated it as a public health problem. Their rates are really, really low. So we'll never be able to completely eliminate cancer from the world because of all the different things that are risk factors. But we can bring it down to numbers that are so low that it's really not a public health issue that we all have to worry about. And so if we vaccinate, which is free, and if we screen with our pap test, which is free, we can stop worrying about cervical cancer for the vast majority of women in Jamaica.
And that's important. Dr. Morrison?
Hi.
A question for you from YouTube. This person is asking, if you have a swollen prostate, is that serious?
And the truth is, a swollen prostate is most often a non-cancerous condition. So we call that benign prostatic hyperplasia. It's also called BPH, and it's enlargement of the prostate that occurs with age. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's cancer there. No, yes, sometimes when prostate cancer becomes more advanced, men may have enlargement, so-called swollen prostate. But in its earliest stage, prostate cancer will not cause gross enlargement of the prostate. A swollen prostate is most often enlarged due to age, not cancer.
But so the detection of the swollen prostate, though, is done through the screening?
It's done through a physical exam. So the digital rectal exam, which men are so afraid of, yes, that's how it's done. You can also detect an enlarged prostate through doing an ultrasound. So man can have a transabdominal ultrasound done, which can detect the enlarged prostate.
All right, thanks. And for you, Dr. Davidson, this one says, my executive, no. Does the health center offer an executive profile?
No, we don't do an executive profile at this time, but what will happen is when you go to see the doctor will order the appropriate tests that are required.
Okay. Next one for you. Do I just walk in and request a risk analysis at the health center?
Certainly you can walk in, yes. Certainly you can go in.
All right. Another one. Can you have breast cancer without a lump ever being present? And what name is given to that kind of cancer?
So there are different ways in which breast cancer can show. It can show up in the form of a lump. It can show up in the form of a nipple discharge, especially a nipple discharge that is, you don't have to squeeze the nipple for it to occur. It's called non-spontaneous. It's called, if you have you're seeing nipple discharge on your nightie, on your brassiere and stuff, especially if it's bloody, that could be breast cancer. It can show up in this form of a rash. And we have to make people aware of this because some people have got this eczema, a rash that they think is just eczema on the breast. And that could be on the nipple. And that could be a form in which cancer is coming out from the breast onto the skin and called Paget's disease. So if a woman has a rash on the nipple, do not ignore that, or don't just start taking things, steroids and all sorts of creams on it. Get it checked out and evaluated, especially if you try to treat it for the first couple weeks or so and it doesn't go away. Get that checked. Also, some people see inflammatory changes on the breast, that the breast may look red and a little swollen, a little tender, and they may think it's just hormonal changes or something. That is one way in which inflammatory cancer can show up, and it's a very aggressive form of cancer. So if someone thinks that there's some inflammation and redness to the breast and is getting antibiotics 2 or 3 times and that don't go away, find the breast surgeon or find the radio, get your breast screened and stuff to check for cancer. Now, having said that we have symptoms, I don't want any woman in the hearing of my voice or yours or anybody on this panel to wait until they have a symptom. The earliest symptom of breast cancer is nothing. Normal breast. That's the earliest sign. Some cancers also start by looking like little grains of salt. It is called microcalcifications. So some people eat, and the only thing that picks up those little grains of salt is the mammogram. So the mammogram picks up the cancer early by picking up these little grains of salt. And I'll tell you this, if you were to sprinkle grains of salt in your breast, any woman's breast, and feel that, you can't feel that lump. It's sprinkled grains of salt, too small. Your husband can't feel it, you can't feel it, your doctor can't feel it, nobody can feel that.
The mammogram can pick it up
and they see when there's little grains of salt in the breast, the cancer don't want no mammogram to be done. And I said, no man, let me just make sure you don't do the mammogram. Don't do the mammogram, let me take root. Let me take root. So now if the mammogram was not done to pick up those grains of salt, then it will like you're making dumpling and the salt gather flour and gather water and form lump. That is over time. So you don't want to wait until you have lump. You want to check your breast early because you can pick up the little grains of salt. Now let's say the cancer was to start in the form of a lump. How you want to pick up a lump? It should be a gungo peas, a pinhead, a lemon, an orange, or a lime and a grapefruit. You don't want to wait till you have grapefruit or lime. You want a pinhead or a gungo peas. You can't feel gungo peas, they're too small. And the mammogram could pick up the gungo peas and the pinhead like a size lump in the breast. So do the mammogram.
How is that for public education? Dr. Mills.
That's where we're here.
Dr. Mills?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Another one.
Indicated by Dr. Cornwall as well.
Another one for you, Dr. Mills. What are some of the symptoms, if you could please go over them, for colorectal cancer?
Okay, so before I touch the symptoms, I want to speak absolutely clear that when we do screening, we don't want to wait on symptoms before we consider colorectal cancer. But for all intents and purposes, some of the common symptoms include bleeding, so blood in the stool. And this can be blood that is bright red blood or altered blood. The most common cause of blood in the stool is, of course, not cancer, but it's something as common as hemorrhoids or piles. But the key thing is once you see blood in the stool, you need to get an answer as to why that's present. So you can't ignore it. You should contact your doctor, especially if you're at a certain age. So if you're, an older individual, no cause, there's no straining, you don't see anything hanging down which suggests that you have hemorrhoids, then you definitely need to get an answer. So blood in the stool, a change in your bowel habit. So knowing your bowel habit is very important. Everyone needs to know what their normal is. And it can vary, but most people will go out to pass stool once a day or twice a day or every other day. Sometimes every 3 days could be normal. But once that changes and you get constipation, for example, that could be an indicator that there's something inside the bowel. Or sometimes even diarrhea can be an indication that there's something wrong. Discomfort in the abdomen, usually associated with bloating, abdominal pain. Sometimes if it's very severe or advanced, you can have complete obstruction of the bowel. So they can't pass any stool or wind, you have vomiting. Depending on how advanced it is as well, it can spread to other organs. So if the liver is involved, you may have signs of that being a problem. So jaundice could be an issue, or yelling of the skin or eyes. You could have pain in the area of the liver, which is on the right side, just below the rib cage, or you may have spread to other organs like the liver, the lung, and so on, which also cause symptoms. Sometimes the only indication is that you've been losing blood and you do a blood test and your blood count is low. So anemia, especially on the background of iron deficiency. So your executive profile may reveal that your blood count is low, for example, and we need to go searching. And sometimes it's because there's a cancer in the bowel, which is causing you to lose blood over time.
Yeah.
And that may be the only indication that there's something wrong. So these are some of the things that we sensitize individuals for in terms of symptoms and signs of colorectal cancer. But you don't want to wait for any of these things, because by that time the cancer is already there.
Right.
Or it may be a large polyp, which is a precancerous condition, and you want to intervene early to prevent any of these things from occurring.
Yes. Thank you, Doc. For you, Dr. Cornwell, Ricardo asked, why not do an ultrasound of the breast instead of a mammogram?
That's an excellent question. And we get that for a number of reasons. So each test has its strengths and its limitation. The only test or entity that is all-knowing and all-wisdom and all-wise is God. Omnipotent. God don't need no screening test. God could look at me, you, everybody, and say, hey, you're good for life. But you don't know that. Right? So the mammogram can pick up, as I said, some cancers like see those little grains of salt, those microcalcifications. The mammogram is what is best at picking that up. It cannot be picked up on an ultrasound. Right? So the mammogram has that strength. And if you do an ultrasound, there's that small size in which you can pick up the cancer on the mammogram, you cannot on the ultrasound. So I want to point now to another type of test called dense breast. Because this is one of the things that they say that ultrasound is better or whatever. So when we do a mammogram, we look to see how much glands that make milk a woman have in the breast, because the breast mainly is designed to make milk.
Yeah.
So, and the milk is made in some milk glands. And the more milk glands that a woman have in their breast, the breast looks whiter on the mammogram, and we say the breast is dense. So when we say the breast is dense, all it really means is that the woman has a lot of glands that make milk. Now, when we do a mammogram on a woman and we see that that breast is very white, dense, we say your breast is dense, you need an ultrasound. Why do we say that? It is because some of the cancers look white on the mammogram as well. And if the mammogram looks white and some of the cancers look white, then the white could hide in the white. Camouflage. So then when a woman have dense breast, we would say do an ultrasound. Now we have some women that will come in and say, Doc, last year I did my mammogram, you tell me the breast now read nothing because it's white, it's dense. It's not reading good.
Yeah.
So you put me to do an ultrasound. So you know what, don't do no mammogram. Leave out the mammogram and just do ultrasound. We can't do that because some of the cancers start by looking at little grains of salts. That's a different shade of white to the glands. So that it's like you're buying paint, birds are paint. You have different shades of white. So the white that the glands look like, not all the cancers have that exact shade. Some of the cancers look like little crystals. So they sparkle in the breast, little grains of salt. And that is only picked up by the mammogram. It cannot be picked up by ultrasound.
Right, right. All right, okay. So hope that answers you, listeners. Ask her about what's best for women with fibrocystic breasts.
Okay, so there's no difference with women who have fibrocystic breast. In other words, a woman with fibrocystic breast, which breast may be painful and lumpy and stuff, that woman is to have her normal screening protocol. It doesn't change the protocol. In other words, having fibrocystic breast does not affect when a woman starts to do the mammogram or not. So women who have cancer in the family, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you this. We actually advise that all women at the age of 30 should go to their doctor, the clinic, the health center, or wherever, KPH, UE. We have all the clinics there at university. We have the best machine for mammography at university, right? Go to your doctor, any doctor, go to your doctor and get a risk assessment. When you go, your doctor is going to go through your family history, go through your menstrual, whether you've had children, if you had pregnancies, your age of first period, if anybody in your family have breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and those things. They go through your history to see if you are at increased risk, which will mean that you need to start screening earlier, or if you could wait until 40. Go to your doctor, get a risk assessment. If you get that, then the doctor will write a request for you to start doing your mammogram, because at that age, you may not be able to walk in and get a mammogram, right? And so you go to get a risk assessment, and then now after that, if you are not at increased risk, you can start screening at 35, 40, because I'm telling you this, that age between 30 and 40, we have seen so many cancers between the ages of 30 and 40, and those are the women who don't have no cancer in the family, and they have to wait on a lump or wait on something or feel something before they start doing their mammogram. So that they know when we find the cancers in them maybe a little later, because they are waiting on something to get a test done, right? So we encourage women then maybe start at 35, get a check-in on the breast to see if the mammogram is normal. And then you maybe can back off until 40, but it's a great time. That 30s to 40s, and we have a lot of women with cancers during that time.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Taylor Christmas. This one is an interesting question.
Oh, boy.
I am 15. Do I need my parents to come with me to get the let's say VP, but HPV vaccine? That's an interesting one.
Well, I think that Dr. Davidson would be, from a public health Ministry of Health standpoint.
So does mommy or daddy need to come?
For the HPV vaccine, you can access it at our health facility. And usually, if you're within that age group, you would normally come with a parent to get the vaccination done.
Okay. The devil doesn't need advocates, but let me ask you. If mommy and daddy are resistant and that 15-year-old still wants a vaccine, how does the ministry treat a situation like that?
Well, that it's important to get their permission for any vaccination or any treatment that you're going to do within that context. Because, of course, anything should happen, any adverse reaction, the parents would have to also deal with that.
Yeah. And the vaccine is a shot?
Yes, it's a vaccine. It's just like chickenpox or any other vaccine that you get. Similar side effects from it. So you just take Panadol after, and your arm may be a little bit sore. And so for most patients that I have given it to, they just have some soreness, a little lump where the injection was given. I've gotten it, I've given it to my kids, I've given it to my godkids, I give it to anybody that asks for it, and I am not aware of any serious side effects in any of the patients that I've given it to so far.
All right, another one. A lot of questions seem to be about breast cancer. This one, is it true that thickening of the breast tissue could be indicative of cancer?
Yes, it can. It doesn't have to be. So what we recommend is that if a woman feels something on the breast, like a thickening or anything, then that woman, first of all, if the woman is 40 and older and don't have any cancer in the family, she should be doing a mammogram every year. If you do your mammogram and you feel a thickening and you go ahead and your mammogram is normal, that person should be put on to doing an ultrasound as well as a backup. So as a matter of fact, any woman who feels something in the breast, even if there is a routine screening and you feel something funny, a mammogram alone may not be enough to complete that screening process. If you feel something, a lump or something, or lumpiness or something, an ultrasound should also be done as well as the mammogram. But the ultrasound does not take the place of the mammogram.
All right. Dr. Mills, I will take your closing remarks now on colorectal cancer, the importance of screening, and any last words that you want Jamaicans to know and to abide by?
Thank you for the opportunity. I do want to stress that you need to be aware of your risk profile. So everyone has a colon. Average risk individuals are the usual men and women, age 45 up to age 75, definitely. You want to do a screening test. The most accessible screening test, which should be done every year, is your stool test to look for blood. Outside of that, alternatives are colonoscopy, which is a gold standard test. It's done every 10 years. And once that's normal, it's protective. You want to pay attention to your lifestyle. A lot of these conditions, you can reduce your risk by eating properly, cutting back on processed foods, having a lot of fiber in the diet, no smoking, and making sure that you're living appropriately. Outside of that, you want to not ignore any signs and symptoms that you already have. Make sure there's no blood in the stool that's unexplained. Don't pay attention to negativity in terms of staying away from screening tests because of fear. Get answers from your physician, health center, programs like this, and take steps to improve the outcomes because we do need to reduce the incidence in a condition which is increasing, unfortunately.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mills. Dr. Morrison, final thoughts on prostate cancer and the importance of screening?
Yes, just to tell our men that it is important to see your doctor once a year to have your test done, if even just the blood test. That fear not prevent you from even going to have the blood test done. And if the result is abnormal, to follow through with the urologist and make a diagnosis. Screening is very simple and easy. The physical exam is actually painless and it's very brief. And prostate cancer can be cured. Men can live a long and productive lives if they have prostate cancer and it's diagnosed early. And certainly it's much cheaper to treat early prostate cancer than it is advanced or distant disease.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Morrison. Dr. Cornwall, take the breast on an outing and bring it when it's at its best.
Yeah, you know, I don't want them to know that breast cancer is not a death sentence. We want every woman, when you've gotten older, if you you check your breast every month as a young teenager, all the teenagers listening to me, parents tell your children to check their breast. And if you feel anything, then let mommy and auntie know so we can take you to the doctor to check you out. And you do that once you know, you do that going up until 40. When you reach 40, this program will not be successful if people are not getting up to action. The umbrella cannot shelter you from the rain if you leave it closed. Open your umbrellas. Take action. Every woman hearing me now, I'll be happy if every woman who reached 40 asks themselves, have I done a mammogram in the last year? Everybody should just ask themselves that, self-talk. If you have not done a mammogram in the last year, then you need to take the breast on an outing to get a mammogram. It doesn't matter your age, whether you are 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. If you are not sick to die, where you're in bed and you can't walk and move and can't take the surgery if they found something, where you're like, if you are so not sick, once you can take treatment, if you find something, you should be doing your mammogram. Yeah. And there's no age in which to stop. Some women say, at 60 or 70, I should stop doing my mammogram, I shouldn't do it. No, there's no age to stop doing the mammogram. You continue your mammogram. Once your life expectancy is 5 years or more, you continue doing your mammogram until you die. Right? And then you may die of old age, yes, or whatever it is. So we want to continue. And I want to encourage women. I want to touch on lactating and pregnant women. Pregnancy and lactation does not preclude or does not mean that a woman cannot have a mammogram. A pregnant woman, a woman who is breastfeeding, should follow the routine protocol of getting her mammograms once she's in the age. If you're 40 and you're pregnant, 45 or whatever, and you're pregnant, and you could get your mammogram in pregnancy, and you can get it when you are lactating, all you'll have to do when you're lactating, express the milk before, and then do the mammogram, and move on. And if you have increased risk like 30 and you have the family, the genes and all of that, then you should still have your mammogram protocol even if you're pregnant.
All right. Thank you so much. Take the breast on an outing and bring it at its best. Dr. Taylor Christmas, yes. Cervical cancer and the importance of screening.
Okay, so I want to remind everybody that's listening that we start with primary prevention. If you have kids, if you have a daughter, if you have a son that's school age, let them get vaccinated against HPV. If you yourself are within the age range, if you're over 15 or between 15 and 26, you can go ahead and get vaccinated. If you're over 26, have a conversation with your doctor in a health center or your gynecologist to see if you can still get vaccinated. Do your pap smear screening test, whether it's the cytology to look for the cells or the HPV. Once you are 21, all the way up to 65, get your screenings done regularly. It's free, free, free in the health center, and the treatment is free, free, free in the public system as well, and it's easy. It's the easiest treatment ever if we catch it before it becomes cancer. And even if it's early, the treatment is easy, and sometimes you can even go home on the same day from having the surgical procedure if it's very early cancer. All right, if you have risk factors, so if you are sexually active, protect yourself from getting HIV and use a condom. If you have HIV, make sure it's well controlled, take your medication and get your checkups regularly to make sure that your numbers are low. If you smoke, stop smoking because it's bad for you and it puts you at high risk for all the cancers that we have discussed today. Take care of yourself and screen. Don't wait until you have abnormal bleeding, bleeding after sex, bleeding in between the periods, or a bad discharge just not clearing up. Go now while you're still feeling well. As she said, when the cervix is good, go.
Go. And important, I just want to reemphasize something you said, that if we get screening to the level where it needs to be, we could eradicate cervical cancer in Jamaica.
We work together, because it can't just be us, the doctors. It has to be the population, has to believe it. We can get rid of cervical cancer. It can be a thing of the past that we talk about in the books and say, you know, we used to have cervical cancer, we don't have it anymore. We can get rid of it as a problem.
Yeah. And Dr. Tamu Davidson, from the ministry's perspective now, we've heard the presentations, we've heard the pleadings, public education like I haven't heard, certainly. So the last word is yours.
So what we want to encourage everyone is to join us as we work towards eliminating cervical cancer. That is the reality. The second reality is that cancer doesn't have to be a death sentence for these common cancers. The third reality is that the common symptom for cancer is what? No symptom. And that's what you've heard here. And then the fourth reality is that we have a lot of work to do, but we can't do it without you. So ensure you get your annual health check. Make that a habit. And you can also visit the Ministry of Health website, ncdip.gov.jm. We have a wellness check calculator where you can assess your risk for free, so you can get onto the website and know and look at your own risk. But only together, working together, can we really tackle this huge public health burden. But we have the data, we know what works, and we hope you heard the message. We're coming to you in your neck of the woods, your community, so look out for us. You'll see us with Know Your Numbers and other interventions. So thank you.
And they're fantastic doctors. There's that as well. Right? So you can be assured that you're going to get quality treatment. Can I say thank you to Dr. Leslie Mead, the president of the Medical Association of Jamaica. He was with us earlier, director of non-communicable diseases and injuries prevention at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Dr. Tamu Davidson, consultant physician and gastroenterologist at Phoenix Gastroenterology and Health Services, and a vice president of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Mike Mills, gynecologic oncologist at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, Dr. Anna K. Taylor Christmas, consultant urologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, Dr. Belinda Morrison, and consultant radiologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, Dr. Daria Cornwall, all sharing with you the importance of screening, how important it is to get it done early, yes, and what that will mean for resilience ultimately in our health sector if we can combat some of these cancers. Can I say thank you as well to my producer, Dana Davey. She was joined by Sonia Stewart, Jamal Tucker on camera and graphics, Nigel Austin also on camera and graphics, Jermaine King, the director, the pilot, Andrew Anderson, technical operator, Diana Buchanan, business development executive, Michael Paul, the marketing, creative, and promotions officer, the Medical Association of Jamaica for sponsoring this very, very, very important symposium, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, of course, Jermaine Compass, yes, thank you so much. Gorgeous Flowers, special thanks to you all. And you, of course, our valued listeners or viewers, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you'll find some part of this presentation that you can cut, snip, TikTok. We were talking about the platform. Put it out there and allow everybody, just make everybody know, yeah, that they need to get screened for whatever cancer, and they need to take it very, very seriously, yeah? And you heard stressed over and over and over again, the earlier, the better, yes? You want to come at your best. And I'm just going to end by saying, take the breast out. I am Ricardo Brooks. That has been the MAJ Symposium 2024. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.